It all started the night before her wedding. Her fiancé cheated on her with her best friend. Heartbroken, Shin Yunchi went to a bar to drown her sorrows, only to catch the attention of a group of thugs. Overcome with emotions, she smashed a bottle over one of their heads, knocking him out cold. After teaching them a lesson, she ran out of the bar. But as she ran, her legs started to feel weak, and a chilling thought crossed her mind: did someone spike my drink? While trying to escape, a massive truck came barreling down the road. She couldn't dodge in time and was hit. As her vision blurred, she saw a man standing over her. His name was Hui Cheng, a ruthless CEO notorious for his cold-blooded ways. Rumor had it, he poisoned his own father and drove his sister insane. Desperate, she reached out for help. But Hui Cheng? He coldly stepped aside, ignoring her completely. Shin Yunchi fainted from rage and exhaustion. When she woke up, she found herself 4 years into the future, married to Hui Cheng under a mysterious contract. Confused and desperate for answers, she grabbed her phone to call her best friend, only to realize she'd blocked her. What happened during these 4 years? Why would I block Yuan, of all people? Unblocking her, she called Yuan and silently prayed, "Please pick up. Please pick up." The call connected quickly. Yuan, it's me. Can we meet up? Shin Yunchi? Did you lose your mind? Didn't you swear we'd never talk again? Come on, girl. Just meet me. Same spot as always. We'll talk in person. Fine. But I want to know what game you're playing this time. After hanging up, she went to change clothes, only to freeze in front of her closet. The wardrobe was filled with outfits so gaudy that even a dog wouldn't wear them. Out of options, she grabbed one of Hui Cheng's oversized t-shirts and decided to make do. After a brief wait, Shin Yunchi finally met up with her best friend, Yuan. She threw her arms around her dramatically. Yuan. I missed you so much. The sudden display of affection left Yuan uncomfortable. What do you want? Quit acting. Just say it already. Shin Yunchi pleaded, I know I was wrong before. Please don't stay mad at me. If you ignore me, I'll have no one left. Yuan studied her, torn between annoyance and a flicker of sympathy. Why does she seem so different today? After a pause, she sighed. Fine. As long as you figured it out, I won't hold a grudge. The two headed to a nearby restaurant. As they approached, Shin Yunchi noticed a man and a woman standing at the entrance. She squinted, whispering, Wait, that guy looks familiar. Yuan rolled her eyes. Are you blind? That's your husband. And the woman with him? That's Mei Qinghan, the close friend you introduced him to. Shin Yunchi's jaw dropped. Husband? Right, I'm married to Hui Cheng now, but what's this about a close friend? Furious but determined, she marched over to their table, putting on a sweet smile. Hubby, enjoying a nice meal? Why didn't you invite me? Hui Cheng looked up, surprised but composed. Mei Qinghan quickly chimed in, her voice smooth. Yunchi, what a coincidence running into you here. I Cheng and I were just discussing something. Why don't we plan another time to catch up properly? Shin Yunchi's smile didn't waver. Oh, no need for that. I'm not an outsider, right? Surely there's no reason for me to wait. Mei Qinghan hesitated, visibly flustered. It's nothing serious. I just thought I Cheng might enjoy trying this dish, so I brought him here. Without missing a beat, Shin Yunchi slid into the seat beside her husband, leaning in. Hubby, does this shirt I'm wearing look familiar? Thought I'd make myself comfortable. Hey, these are your short sleeves, aren't they? Don't I look great in them? Yunchi smirked as she tugged at her shirt playfully. Mei Qinghan's expression darkened with resentment. Shin Yunchi, you've really got a death wish. Ruining things for us like this? Just wait until Hui Cheng deals with you at home. Feigning calm, Yunchi turned to her husband. Honey, what were you two chatting about so intently? Something I should know? Hui Cheng replied coolly, nothing much. Just small talk. Mei Qinghan, visibly uncomfortable watching the couple's banter, abruptly stood up. Yicheng, I've got to rush to an afternoon meeting. Since you're heading back to the office too, why don't we go together? Hua Yicheng leaned back and dismissed her suggestion effortlessly. I've got other things to take care of, so I'm not going back to the office. You go ahead. Realizing there was no saving face, Mei Qinghan awkwardly excused herself and left. As soon as she was gone, Yunqi leaned closer to her husband. Babe, my friend is still over at the other table. If you're still hungry, why don't we all eat together? Ignoring her invitation, Hua Yicheng grabbed her arm and pulled her aside. His voice was sharp. Alright, enough games. What's your real goal here? If there's something you want from me, just say it directly. No need for all these theatrics. Yunqi shook off his grip, crossing her arms with a triumphant smile. Mission accomplished. I've already gotten what I wanted. Hua Yicheng's gaze hardened. Don't tell me all this drama was just for Ji Yuntang. Yunqi frowned in confusion. Ji Yuntang? Who's that? That name does sound vaguely familiar, but what does it have to do with this? Hua Yicheng's tone grew colder. You're really willing to go this far for him, huh? Even if it means breaking the terms of our agreement. Hua Yicheng's smile faded as his patience waned. Look, I have my limits. You were the one who insisted on signing that agreement back then. So let me give you some advice, don't try to outsmart me. Take care of yourself. As she watched him walk away, Yunqi couldn't help but mutter in frustration. Seriously, I was just here to catch a cheater. How did this turn into me being the bad guy? Am I wrong for calling out infidelity? Her friend shrugged, chiming in lightly, who knows? Marriage stuff is messy. Outsiders like me can't keep up. While they were chatting, Mei Qinghan called. Noticing this, Yunqi asked, Yuan, was I really close with this White Lotus before? Yep. You used to be her lackey, ha ha ha, her friend replied. Hearing this, Yunqi began to doubt herself. A lackey? That doesn't match my personality at all. Answering the call, she heard Mei Qinghan ranting on the other end. You promised me. Don't go back on your word. Miss Mei, my memory's been a bit foggy lately. What exactly did I promise you? Oh, and if I really did agree to something before, I'm officially taking it back now, Yunqi said coolly. Shin Yunqi, how dare you go back on your word? Miss Mei, I can't talk right now. Yicheng said he's taking me shopping. Yunqi cut her off and hung up before giving her a chance to reply. Yuan widened her eyes in disbelief. Girl, you're basically a human ATM for them. Even your stepmother's ridiculous demands get fulfilled. Fine, Mrs. Hua. You've clearly made a lifelong enemy out of Mei Qinghan today. What are you going to do now? Yunqi casually grabbed her and started walking. Let them come for me. I'll handle it as it comes. Now, let's hit the mall. I need some new clothes. As Yunqi sipped her coffee and scrolled through her phone, she suddenly said, by the way, this credit card you gave me, it's just a secondary card. Is the main one in Hua Yicheng's hands? Yuan frowned. That stingy CEO? Wouldn't be surprised. It's probably because your dear sister, Xin Yao, considering you've been your family's personal ATM for years. The comment made Yunqi pause. No wonder they had me clean out the villa for her to use. Some people really need to be taught a lesson. Yuan, what on earth happened in the past 4 years? How did I become their cash cow? This doesn't make sense with my personality. I'm not entirely sure, but maybe it's connected to the time you went missing, Yuan said thoughtfully. Missing? I was missing? Yunqi asked, confused. Yeah, right around the time you and Fu Yunze were preparing for your wedding. You disappeared for an entire year. Even the private detective I hired couldn't find a trace of you. Yunqi recalled, for years ago, I remember catching them before the wedding. Then I got into some trouble at a bar. Could that have been when I went missing? Wait, did Fu Yunze and Dong Wan'er end up together? Her friend replied, they didn't get married, just engaged. Dongwonner seems pretty smug these days, huh? I'll have to teach those two a lesson when I get the chance. The next day, Yunchi dressed to the nines for a birthday banquet. She planned to show her dear sister a thing or two. Just as she was about to leave, Hui Cheng stopped her. Yang Fingyi called me, he said. Was all that fuss yesterday just for 50 million yuan? You could have just said so, instead of going through all that trouble. Yunchi froze for a moment, feeling a little awkward. This shameless stepmother, really? She even tracked me down in person. Feigning nonchalance, Yunchi replied, "Oh, sorry. If you didn't give her the money yet, don't bother. I'll handle it from now on." Hui Cheng frowned, deep in thought. Yang Fingyi had asked for money plenty of times, but Yunchi's reaction was different this time. "Are you sure you can handle it?" "Absolutely. If she causes trouble, just have security throw her out. No need to consider my feelings." Hui Cheng raised an eyebrow. "And where are you heading so late?" "Just handling some things." "Don't worry, it won't involve you." He scoffed, crossing his arms. "As if I care what you're up to. You don't need to report to me." Meanwhile, a girl was hosting her birthday party at the villa, showing off to her friends and bragging that it was her house. Little did she know, the real owner of the villa was already there. When Xinyao arrived, she spotted Yunchi lounging and sipping coffee like she owned the place. "Who's that?" one of the party guests asked, confused. "Oh, her?" Xinyao replied with a sly smile. "That's just the housekeeper I hired to clean. Guess she didn't get the memo to stay out of sight." When Yunchi heard someone gossiping about her, she turned her head, narrowing her eyes at Xinyao. "Let's see how smug you are now." The glance startling a boy nearby. "Yao Yao, what's her deal? Why is this housekeeper acting like she owns the place? How could you even pick someone like her?" one of Xinyao's friends whispered, their tone dripping with disdain. Xinyao's face burned with embarrassment. She stomped over, yelling, "Who told you to sit here? Go prepare us some refreshments right now. You're such an eyesore. Just wait, I'll deal with you later." Yunchi, calm as ever, casually sipped her coffee before responding, "And what if I say no?" Xinyao's eyes flared. "Did you just talk back to me? You're just a lowly servant. How dare you?" Before Yunchi could reply, two people walked in through the door. One of them introduced himself, "I'm the property manager for this community. We received a report about unauthorized activity. May I ask, who here is the homeowner?" Xinyao tried to keep her composure, snapping, "I'm just hosting a small gathering in my own home. Is that a crime? Now leave immediately." The property manager's expression didn't waver. "Apologies, ma'am, but this house belongs to Mr. Hui Cheng. Can you clarify your relationship with Mr. Hua?" Xinyao's confidence faltered. She raised her voice, trying to mask her unease. "Who even called you here?" At that moment, Yunchi stepped forward. "I did," she said with a faint smile. "Also, let's not gloss over the fact that you've been trashing my husband's house." Yunchi's tone turned sharp. "I'm willing to let this slide, but the wine? That's from my husband's private collection. Someone's going to have to pay for the damage." Xinyao crossed her arms and sneered, "Fine. I'll pay. You think I can't afford it?" "Great," Yunchi replied, raising an eyebrow. "Just so you know, those bottles go for 200,000 yuan each, and a few are worth 500,000 yuan. Altogether, you owe about 5 million. So, let's see that money." Xinyao froze, her arrogance evaporating. She stammered for a moment before dramatically dropping to the floor, feigning unconsciousness. Her friends, horrified, quickly backed away. One of them muttered, "We're not that close with Xinyao anyway. We should probably get going." And with that, they fled the scene, leaving Xinyao to deal with the fallout alone. The security guard glanced at Xinyao, still playing dead, and helplessly turned to Mrs. Hua. "What should we do about her?" Yunchi shrugged nonchalantly. "Let her lie there if she wants. Now, bring me the dinner I ordered. I'll just sit here, enjoy my meal, and wait to see how long she keeps this up." As Xinyao continued her act, Yunqi casually dined on seafood next to her, unbothered. Back home, reflecting on the earlier chaos, Yunqi couldn't help but chuckle to herself. I really thought Xinyao was tougher. Turns out she's such a lightweight, she couldn't even last 5 minutes. However, Yunqi's smug moment was interrupted by a sudden wave of dizziness. She decided to grab some water, but froze when she saw Hua Yicheng coming down the stairs. You went to the Golden Bay Villa? He asked. Yunqi replied indifferently, that's your property, after all. Xinyao had no business barging in uninvited. She deserved a lesson. Hua Yicheng's tone carried confusion. You went to handle Xinyao? Weren't you always the one going along with whatever she said? It's nothing, Yunqi replied, brushing it off. I'll head upstairs first. But Hua Yicheng noticed something was off. Are you okay? Not feeling well? He asked, pulling her close to check on her. Startled, Yunqi quickly dodged, standing up straight. I'm totally fine. Super healthy, she insisted, though her flushed face said otherwise. You're burning up, he noted, placing a hand on her forehead. His concern turned into action. All right, that's it. I'll carry you back to your room to rest. Flustered, Yunqi protested, her cheeks growing redder. What are you doing? Let go of me. You probably ate something you're allergic to and now you've got a fever, he said firmly, carrying her upstairs. Yunqi couldn't help but think, having someone like him in moments like this isn't so bad. But her thoughts were interrupted when Hua Yicheng asked, what's on your mind? Are you feeling worse? Just get me to the room. Then call the doctor, Yunqi muttered, avoiding his gaze. Moments later, Hua Yicheng's private doctor arrived. After a quick check, he confirmed it's a seafood allergy that caused the reaction. Good thing it was caught early. Just rest for a few days, and you'll be fine. Yunqi sighed in relief, her initial embarrassment melting into gratitude. What kind of idiot eats seafood? Yicheng snapped angrily. Are you scolding me now? Anyway, I'm not allergic to seafood. I've never been allergic. Yunqi retorted sharply, glaring at Hua Yicheng. But Yicheng didn't want to stop, so what's going on now? The two quickly started bickering, their voices growing louder. The doctor, sensing the tension, stepped back awkwardly and said, well, since the young madam is fine now, I'll take my leave. Don't want to intrude on your private time. After the doctor left, Hua Yicheng let out a long, weary sigh. Fine. You're sick, so I won't argue with you. Yunqi pouted, lost in thought. Does he know? She wondered. Does he realize that the me standing here is actually the me from 4 years ago? But, how am I supposed to bring that up? Would he even believe me? Hua Yicheng watched her silently, frustration bubbling up. She's ignoring me again, he thought bitterly. She really can't stand being around me, can she? I was just worried about her, how is that a crime? Fine, if you don't want me here, I'll leave. Without another word, he stomped out, slamming the door behind him. Yunqi stared at the closed door, completely bewildered. What the heck? He gets mad so easily. Later, Yunqi was jolted out of her thoughts by an unexpected visit. A woman strutted into the room, her expression smug. Yunqi, I came to see you, the visitor announced. Yunqi's mood instantly soured. She stood up and replied coldly, your concern isn't necessary, Miss May. If you've got something to say it. Otherwise, I'll be heading back to rest. Oh, I do have something to say, Mei Qinghan smiled sweetly, though her words dripped with venom. That argument we had over the phone the other day? I didn't mean it. Actually, I should thank you for turning a blind eye to my time with Yicheng. Yunqi's expression darkened, but Mei Qinghan continued, unbothered. You were just upset, right? All those things you said, you didn't really mean them, did you? You're such a reasonable person, Yunqi. I knew you'd come around and apologize eventually. Apologize? Yunqi raised an eyebrow. Mei Qinghan smirked. More or less. Since you're being so gracious, I'll accept it. By the way, I need a favor. There's a movie premiere in a couple of days, and I'd like you to help me get Icheng to attend. I'll wait for him at the event. Can you do that for me? Haha, trying to take my husband to a movie? Sure, but whether he agrees is another matter, Yunchi said ironically. Oh, he will, Mei Qinghan replied confidently. If you ask him, he'll definitely go. Yunchi raised an eyebrow. Why would he listen to me? Mei Qinghan shrugged dismissively. You don't need to overthink it. Just follow my instructions, okay? Fine, I'll try. You're lucky I'm helping you, Yunchi muttered sarcastically. I knew you'd come through for me, just like you always do, Mei Qinghan replied with a sugary smile. Anyway, rest up, I won't bother you anymore. As Mei Qinghan left, Yunchi watched her with narrowed eyes. Let's see what role you've been playing in my life these past 4 years, while I've lost my memories. That evening, Yunchi saw Hua Yicheng returning home. She approached him and brought up the day's events. Mei Qinghan came to see me today. She wants you to go meet her, Yunchi said casually, watching for his reaction. Hua Yicheng raised an eyebrow. Do you want me to go? Yunchi crossed her arms. If I said yes, would you? Of course. Whatever you want, he replied firmly. Yunchi frowned slightly, confusion flickering across her face. Do you like her? The question barely left her mouth before Hua Yicheng pushed her against the wall, his expression intense. You think I like her? Flustered, Yunchi snapped back, I don't think that. But if you don't, then just don't go. Now, let me go. Alright, Hua Yicheng teased, leaning closer. But here's the deal, there's a banquet coming up in a few days. If you agree to attend with me, I'll let you go. Fine. Whatever you want, just let me go. Yunchi exclaimed, frantically nodding. Satisfied, Hua Yicheng stepped back, and Yunchi bolted to her room, her cheeks flushed. He stood there for a moment, watching her retreat, baffled. She really is different from before. Later, at the grand banquet, Yunchi made an appearance in an elegant gown, catching the attention of everyone in the room. However, just as she started making her way toward Hua Yicheng, she accidentally bumped into a stranger. Oh, I'm so sorry about that, she said politely. The man smiled. Yunchi, why are you being so formal? You used to call me Yuntang. Hearing his words, Yunchi froze. So this is Ji Yuntang, she realized. From across the room, Hua Yicheng observed the interaction, his expression darkening as he watched their every move. The man casually wrapped his arm around Yunchi's waist, reminiscing about their supposed closeness in the past. However, Yunchi, who had no memory of him after crossing over, quickly shrugged him off and stepped back. Who does this guy think he is, she thought, irritated. At a Hua family banquet, no less. If my husband sees this, it'll be such a mess. Ji Yuntang paused at her reaction, clearly thrown off. You used to enjoy this, he said, feigning a laugh. But you're right, this isn't the best place for it. I'll contact you later tonight. He's bold, I'll give him that, Yunchi thought, replying with a curt, fine, before walking away. Crossing over into this life is such a headache. First a scheming stepmother, now this clingy Ji Yuntang. I can't catch a break. Meanwhile, Hua Yicheng, watching from a distance, gripped his glass tightly, his anger barely contained. She says she's not involved with him, but look at them. As Yunchi walked off, still fuming over Ji Yuntang, she was abruptly bumped into by a young girl. Oh. I'm sorry, the girl stammered, looking flustered. Wait, are you Hua Yicheng's sister, Hua Baoyan? Before Baoyan could respond, an older woman rushed over, shouting, someone grab this little brat. She broke my bracelet. The girl looked up, tears welling in her eyes. I didn't do it, she protested. Yunchi glanced between them, quickly piecing things together. This must be Huang Ying, Hua Yicheng's stepmother. Looks like Baoyan's had to deal with her nonsense for a while. Yunchi stepped forward, her tone calm but sharp. You're accusing her? Do you have proof she broke your bracelet? The older woman snapped back, her tone sharp. Proof? Shin Yunchi, when did you get the nerve to meddle in my business? Before Yunchi could reply, Hui Yicheng strode over, his voice cold as he demanded, "What's going on here?" "This poor girl is being wrongly accused by her stepmother," Yunqi said, unbothered by the woman's glare. Huang Ying pointed at Bao Yan and scoffed, "She shattered my bracelet and then ran off. I'm taking her home right now." Yunqi didn't back down. "You're saying she broke it? Do you have proof?" Huang Ying rolled her eyes. "Why do you even care? Don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong." As the tension escalated, Hui Yicheng's calm but firm voice cut through. "If you're so certain Bao Yan broke it, let's check the security footage." Huang Ying froze, her confidence faltering. "There's no need for that. With so many people here, do you really want to make a scene? I know what I saw." Yunqi crossed her arms, unrelenting. "If you're unwilling to check, then why should we just take your word for it? Accusations need evidence. Or do you expect us to believe everything you say blindly?" Huang Ying's face turned red with frustration. "She's not my biological child, true, but I've raised her since she was little. Why would I wrongfully accuse her?" Before the argument could escalate further, Hui Yicheng shouted, "Enough. Aunt Huang, that's enough. Bao Yan's coming home with me tonight. I'll handle things with my father." Without another word, he took Bao Yan's hand and started walking away, motioning for Yunqi to follow. Huang Ying stood there fuming, unable to say a word as the three of them left. Later that evening, Yunqi was lounging on the couch, playing with Bao Yan, when her phone buzzed. Opening the message, she saw it was from Ji Yuntang, "Meet me at the usual spot tomorrow afternoon." Yunqi frowned, lost in thought. How has Hui Yicheng tolerated this guy all these years, she wondered. Does he really not care if I meet with other men? "Sis Yunqi, I'm feeling sleepy," Bao Yan said with a yawn, pulling her back to the present. "Alright, let's get you to bed," Yunqi said with a smile, putting her phone down. "Your room's next to mine. If you can't sleep, just come find me, and we can chat." While bringing Bao Yan back to her room, Yunqi was still distracted by the message from Ji Yuntang. What's he scheming now? After Yunqi left, her phone started buzzing again. Hui Yicheng noticed, and his face darkened instantly. Later that night, Yunqi had no choice but to sleep in Hui Yicheng's room to avoid Bao Yan discovering they weren't sharing a bedroom. This is so awkward, Yunqi thought, glancing over, only to freeze when she caught sight of Hui Yicheng changing clothes. She couldn't help but admire his figure. "If he were my boyfriend, I'd definitely want to touch." Her thoughts were cut off when Hui Yicheng suddenly walked over, standing right in front of her. "Like what you see?" he asked with a smirk. "So, who's in better shape, me or Ji Yuntang?" Flustered, Yunqi stammered, "Why are you bringing him up? This has nothing to do with Ji Yuntang. Don't get the wrong idea, I only came in here to keep Bao Yan from suspecting anything." "Oh really?" Hui Yicheng teased. "And here I thought you were finally stepping up as my wife tonight." He couldn't help but think to himself, she's never acted like this before, how unexpectedly cute. Yunqi's cheeks burned at his words. "Your wife?" she stammered. "Wait, we're legally married. So does that mean, all these years, I've technically had the right to do whatever I wanted with him?" One moment, Yunqi was trying to maintain her composure, the next, she impulsively threw herself at him. "What am I doing?" she gasped, realizing she'd pinned him down in a burst of emotion. She tried to retreat, but Hui Yicheng wasn't about to let her go. "Have I been too easy on you lately?" he murmured, his voice low and teasing. "Let's settle things properly tonight." "Wait, you can't just," Yunqi protested, but her words were cut off as Hui Yicheng leaned closer. "You've been handling everyone else so confidently these past couple of days. Messaging Ji Yuntang must have been fun, right?" he quipped, his eyes sharp. "So why so quiet now?" Caught in the heated atmosphere, Yunqi stammered, I'll handle it tomorrow. I swear." But the room fell silent before she could say anything more. The next afternoon, Yunqi arrived at the arranged meeting spot. Before coming, she'd done her homework, gathering information about Ji Yuntang from Yuan Yuan. "So, he's actually my college senior," she mused. "For years ago, when I lost my memory, he manipulated me, and used me to profit from Hui Yicheng. What's his game now? Yunqi, why don't you have Hui Yicheng hand over the development rights for this land to me? Ji Yuntang said, a sly smile on his face. And why would you think Hui Yicheng listens to everything I say? Yunqi countered coldly. Because he owes you, Ji Yuntang replied confidently. Yunqi raised an eyebrow, trying to dig for more information. Oh? And what exactly does he owe me? Don't play dumb with me, Ji Yuntang snapped, his tone turning impatient. Are you trying to back out of helping me? You're absolutely right, Yunqi shot back, her voice sharp. I don't want to help you. Got a problem with that? Ji Yuntang's smile twisted into something darker. Have you forgotten about the photos I have? Don't push me, Yunqi. I'm not bluffing. If you don't cooperate, I'll release them. Yunqi crossed her arms, unfazed. Oh, you mean those photos? Go ahead, post them. Let's see what happens. Ji Yuntang's expression faltered for a moment, then hardened. You think I won't? Don't make me prove you wrong. You know I'm serious. Just then, Hui Yicheng appeared from behind, his voice dripping with sarcasm. If you're so confident, then why not just release them already? Ji Yuntang laughed bitterly. Wow, a united front. Husband and wife teaming up, huh? Fine, since we're at an impasse, I'll make sure this gets settled my way. He pulled out his phone, dialing his assistant. Hey, send the photos from this special folder on my computer. Post them on all the major platforms, whichever ones get the most traffic. The assistant hesitated. Are you sure about this? Do it, Ji Yuntang barked. Let's make the Hua family a trending topic. This time, Mrs. Hua's scandal will be everywhere. Yunqi tensed, but quickly pulled out her own phone. When the notification popped up, she took one look and couldn't help but laugh. These are the photos you're so proud of? Ji Yuntang, it's not too late to backtrack. If you beg me, I might consider letting this go. He sneered. Beg you? Not a chance. If you don't do what I want, I'll ruin you. But Yunqi simply smiled. Delete them? Oh, no need. These pictures are so memorable. I think the world deserves to see them in all their glory. What Ji Yuntang didn't realize was that Yunqi had already bribed his assistant to turn the tables. Instead of posting compromising photos of Yunqi, Ji Yuntang's assistant uploaded pictures that exposed his shady dealings. A notification pinged on Ji Yuntang's phone, and his expression turned to panic. What? You set me up. Yunqi dialed her phone with a smirk. Hello, 911? I'd like to report a creep threatening to share explicit photos. His name? Ji Yuntang. I'll be waiting for your officers. Ji Yuntang glared at her as he was dragged away. You haven't seen the last of me, Yunqi. I'll get my revenge. Sure, Ji Yuntang, Yunqi called after him. Anytime you're ready for round 2, let me know. After dealing with Ji Yuntang, Yunqi and Hui Yicheng walked one after the other down the street. Suddenly, Hui Yicheng's phone started ringing loudly. He picked up, and a woman's voice came through the line. Yicheng, where are you? Weren't you supposed to come to my premiere today? Hearing that it was Mei Qinghan, Yunqi couldn't help but feel a twinge of jealousy. She huffed, what a player. Didn't you say you wasn't into her? Why is you even answering her call? Ugh, am I keeping you from attending some big deal actress's premiere? If you want to go, just go. Don't let me ruin your plans. Hui Yicheng noticed her jealousy immediately and grabbed her hand. I told you, if you don't want me to go, I won't. Don't start with this act. Meanwhile, back at the premiere, Mei Qinghan was surrounded by reporters. Miss Mei, one asked, wasn't Mr. Hua supposed to be here today? Why is he absent? She forced a smile and replied, he mentioned a last-minute, important meeting. I understand, of course. But the reporters didn't let up. Just 10 minutes ago, someone photographed Mr. Hua with another woman. They seemed very close. Is she his new love interest? Mei Qinghan froze at the question, looking visibly uncomfortable. Her assistant quickly stepped in to cut the press conference short. Alright, everyone, that's all for today. Thank you for coming. Later that evening, Hua Yicheng and Yunqi returned to their villa. You stopped me from going to Mei Qinghan's premiere today just to humiliate her, didn't you? Hua Yicheng asked. Yunqi shot back, and what if I did? Everyone's saying she's your soulmate. What, are you upset that I made her look bad? Hua Yicheng slammed his hand on the table, standing abruptly. Shin Yunqi, did you forget what's written in our agreement? The tension between them was thick when, right then, Mei Qinghan's name popped up on Hua Yicheng's phone again. He picked up, his tone cold and impatient. What is it? Yicheng, she began tentatively, did Yunqi tell you about my premiere today? I really wanted you to come. She told me, he replied flatly. Why? Then why didn't you come? Mei Qinghan asked, her voice laced with hurt. Hua Yicheng snapped back, just because you say jump, I have to ask how high? With that, he ended the call abruptly and turned to Yunqi. Next time, if you want something, just say it. No need for all this roundabout nonsense. Yunqi, recalling how she'd outsmarted him the day before, muttered softly, okay. My bad. Later, while Hua Yicheng was in the shower, Yunqi couldn't stop thinking about the agreement he'd mentioned. If she wanted answers, she'd have to find it herself. She sneaked into the study and started rummaging through his desk. Suddenly, Hua Yicheng's voice rang out behind her. Mrs. Hua, didn't you promise me, half an hour ago, to just tell me what you want? So, what's this sneaky behavior? Caught red-handed, Yunqi stammered, well. I was just curious about the agreement. How come there's only a year left? Can't handle it anymore? Hua Yicheng raised a brow. Oh? And what's that supposed to mean? It's not that, she protested quickly. I was just thinking, maybe we could change things up. You've helped me a lot, so maybe I could help you too. What do you think? You scratch my back, I scratch yours? That, he replied, leaning in with a smirk, depends entirely on your performance. Yunqi blinked, confused. Performance? What do you mean by that? Before she could finish, Hua Yicheng kissed her suddenly and passionately, catching her completely off guard. She struggled to respond, flustered. Hua Yicheng. Let me go. Why, he teased, not letting up. Weren't you just saying you wanted to help me? Regretting it now? Her cheeks flushed red as she mumbled, no. I don't regret it. Satisfied with her answer, Hua Yicheng pushed her against the desk, pinning her in place with one large hand. Then tell me, why do you want to help me? I know I've been immature and caused you trouble before, Yunqi admitted, her voice softening. I've upset you, and I've given others the chance to drive a wedge between us. I want to make things right. His lips curved into a mischievous grin as he suddenly scooped her up into his arms. Oh? You don't want me to be unhappy? Then do something to make me happy. Blushing furiously, Yunqi hesitated before asking, can you at least tell me where the agreement is? Hua Yicheng chuckled, his tone playful. Little troublemaker, your focus is all over the place. The next morning, the housekeeper called out from downstairs, Sir, ma'am, Mr. Shen is here. Hearing this, Yunqi quickly pushed Hua Yicheng away and ran downstairs. Dad. What brings you here so early? She asked, slipping into a playful tone to butter him up. Yao, that child's been spoiled since she was little. You're her older sister, don't stoop to her level, her father said. Yunqi paused, her smile stiffening slightly. So he's here to speak up for Xinyao again? Figures. Memories of her childhood flooded back, her dad had always told her to let things slide for Yao. His constant indulgence had only emboldened Xinyao and her mother, Yang Fingyi. This time, Yao was wrong, her dad continued. Yang auntie has promised she'll make her apologize. Can you find time to come home for a visit soon? Yunqi sighed inwardly. Since her father had gone this far, she couldn't push back too hard. Alright, fine. I'll give her a chance. Relieved, her father smiled. Good. That settles it. I'll go let Yang auntie know. After he left, Hua Yicheng stepped closer, watching Yunchi with a smirk. If you don't want to go, just say the word. I'll take care of it for you. Of course I'm going, Yunchi replied confidently. They've set the stage for this drama, I wouldn't miss it. Besides, I'll need your help. Hua Yicheng raised a brow. Help? With what? There's no way Yang Fengyi will apologize to me. I'm just curious to see what stunt they're planning. But don't worry, I've got dirt on Xinyao. They won't dare push me too far. As Yunchi spoke, Hua Yicheng suddenly winced, pressing a hand to his temple. Alarmed, Yunchi rushed to him. What's wrong? Are you okay? It's just an old issue. Don't worry about it, he said, leaning his head back, but before he could finish, his eyes closed, and he slumped over. Hua Yicheng's sudden collapse startled Yunchi, and a family doctor was called. The doctor reassured her, don't worry, ma'am. This happens occasionally. A quick injection and some rest will help. What's wrong with him, exactly? Yunchi asked, still shaken. The doctor hesitated. That's personal. You'll need to ask him once he wakes up. But please, take good care of him. He's been through a lot. Hua Baoyan was worried when she saw Yicheng like that. Sister-in-law, is my brother unwell again? Yunchi froze at the question. He's fine, Yunchi reassured her. The doctor chimed in, just take good care of him, and he'll recover faster. Yunchi, trying to lighten the mood, added, don't worry, I'll look after him. Tomorrow, how about we go shopping together when you're free? After the doctor escorted Hua Baoyan out, Yunchi sank into her thoughts. That rumor about the Hua family, that no one lives past 30, could it be true? The more she pondered, the heavier her eyelids felt. Feeling tired, she crawled into bed and drifted off to sleep. About 10 minutes later, Hua Yicheng stirred and found Yunchi sound asleep. Watching her peaceful face, a tender smile spread across his own. In her sleep, Yunchi unconsciously reached out, brushing against something, mumbling, you better not be hurt. Hearing her murmurs, Hua Yicheng felt deeply touched. The next day, Yunchi took her younger sister out for some shopping. As they walked, her sister, Bao Yan, suddenly asked with a worried expression, Sister-in-law, are you and my brother having problems? If he's mistreating you, just tell me. Yunchi blinked, caught off guard. What? No way. Your brother and I are doing just fine. Then why, Bao Yan pressed, did I hear him bullying you in the study the other day? You were screaming so miserably. Yunchi's face flushed with embarrassment. Oh no, it's not what you think. Let me explain. Before she could finish, a familiar couple strolled toward them. The sight of them instantly set Yunchi on edge. It was those two, the infamous duo from years ago, who had betrayed her. Yunchi clenched her fists in anger. Talk about bad luck. How do I keep running into these people? She turned to her sister with a bitter smile. Let's go. We don't need to waste time around people like them. But the woman in the couple, not one to let things slide, called out mockingly, oh, Yunchi, how could you say that? If it weren't for you, we wouldn't even be together. Yunchi sneered coldly. Turning to her sister, she said loud enough for the couple to hear, next time, let's avoid this mall. They clearly let anyone in these days. It's like they don't even check for pests anymore. The jerk wasn't about to back down after being insulted. He turned to Yunchi and unleashed his fury. You think marrying Hua Yicheng makes you special? Please, he doesn't even care about you. You're nothing but a plaything to him. And this kid here? She's like a dumb little pet that needs constant babysitting. Warner, clearly uncomfortable with his crude remarks, stepped in to defuse the situation. Yunchi, don't take him seriously, okay? He just has a bad temper. You two enjoy your shopping, we'll be on our way now. She tried to pull her boyfriend away, but Yunchi wasn't about to let them leave so easily. You want to leave? Fine. But first, apologize to my sister. Yunchi blocked their path. When he saw his girlfriend getting bullied, the guy quickly stepped in to help, only to get slapped by Yunchi. You dare put your hands on me? Are you trying to get yourself killed? He barked, trying to sound intimidating. Yunchi, unfazed, tightened her grip and glared at him. Apologize. Now. Did you think picking on my sister was fun? Say you're sorry. The guy, who had been full of bravado just seconds ago, panicked when she grabbed him by the collar. Warner, desperate to de-escalate the situation, tried to intervene. Yunchi, stalking us is one thing, but are you really doing all this because you're bitter? You said you'd support our relationship back then, what's this about? Yunchi let out a dry laugh, her anger bubbling over. Stalking? Bitter? Dong Warner, have you lost your mind? Why would I waste my time stalking you? Meanwhile, the guy seemed to have a twisted reaction to being manhandled. He stared at Yunchi with a dazed, almost eager expression. You know, he stammered, even though we're over, if you're still this passionate about me, maybe we could try being friends. Yunchi froze for a second, utterly disgusted. What is wrong with you? Are you some kind of masochist? I wouldn't be caught dead being friends with someone like you. Now, apologize to my sister, or I'll call off the collaboration between the Hua and Fu families right now. The guy snorted, trying to sound unimpressed. You think you're all powerful, huh? What makes you think you have that kind of pull? Yunchi's lips curled into a cold smile as she pulled out her phone. Let's find out, shall we? Without another word, she dialed Hui Yicheng. Hey, Yicheng, if I asked the Hua family to cancel our collaboration with the Fu family, would you agree? Hui Yicheng didn't even pause to think. Of course, he replied. Hearing his response, the couple across from her panicked. They scrambled to apologize, tripping over their words. Yunchi, don't be mad, okay? You know how he is, it's just his personality. I'm so sorry on his behalf. We'll be leaving now, we've got other plans. Yunchi watched them retreat, her expression icy. In her mind, she couldn't help but think, birds of a feather, frogs with toads, yeah, you two make the perfect pair. Flexible and shameless. Bao Yan looked up at Yunchi, her eyes sparkling with admiration. Sis, you were amazing just now. You were so cool, I want to be just like you someday. I won't let anyone push me around anymore. And as long as you're here, I know I'll be safe. Later that evening, the two returned home, laughing and chatting. When they walked in, they found Hui Yicheng sitting on the couch, casually flipping through a book. Yunchi thought to herself, wow, he's healed up so quickly. Bao Yan dashed over at the sight of him, grabbing Hui Yicheng's hand with one of her own and Yunchi's with the other. Big bro. Sis-in-law. I had so much fun with her today. Next time, can the three of us go out together? As Yunchi reached out to place her hand on Hui Yicheng's, her mind was suddenly flooded with memories of their, less innocent moments. Her cheeks flushed bright red, and she quickly pulled her hand back, leaving the two of them momentarily stunned. I think my mouth feels a little hot, she stammered, clearly flustered. Hui Yicheng smirked, clearly enjoying her embarrassment. Bao Yan, Yunchi quickly said, trying to recover, you must be tired. I'll take you to bed now. Out in public, she was a fierce, commanding presence. At home, she turned into a sweet, gentle wife. After Bao Yan entered the room, Hui Yicheng seemed to switch gears entirely. He closed in on Yunchi with a mischievous glint in his eyes. Don't get so close to me, she said, backing up. Why not, Mrs. Hua, he teased, leaning in even further. Is your little mouth starting to feel hot again? Yunchi was furious and embarrassed from being teased. She grabbed his arm and chomped down lightly, making Hui Yicheng burst into laughter. Yunchi looked at him, puzzled. What are you laughing at? She asked. Just thinking about how you're usually all icy and untouchable, but now you've completely changed. What? I've always been like this, she shot back, huffing. And don't think you're getting away with bullying me. That's why I bit you. The next day, Yunchi's dad, Shen Xiong, looked at her suspiciously and asked, did a mosquito bite your neck? Her face turned bright red. That dog, Hui Yicheng, gave me a hickey, she thought angrily. She tried to deflect. Oh, that's not important. So, why did you call me back here? Before her dad could answer, her mom, Yang Fingy, scolded Xinyao. Yao Yao, apologize to your sister right now for all the trouble you caused last time. Xinyao folded her arms, pouting. I won't. Do it, her mom snapped. Seeing her mother's stern face, Xinyao reluctantly muttered, I'm sorry. Yunqi raised an eyebrow. Yao Yao spoiled beyond belief. Her dad tried to smooth things over. She apologized, didn't she? Can't you let it go? You're sisters, after all. Yeah, sure, sisters. And as your daughter, who's ever had my back? Just because I married Hui Yicheng doesn't mean I'm your personal ATM. Her father scratched his head awkwardly. Yunqi, we're family. Why talk like that? Yang Fingyi chimed in quickly, exactly. We're all family here. By the way, our family's beauty salon is opening soon. Your dad wants you and Yicheng to come and help boost the event. Yunqi narrowed her eyes, instantly catching on. Ah, so that's why they wanted me here. They need something from me. She was utterly disgusted. Is it our family salon? How much of it do I own? If you want me to let bygones be bygones, then give me half the shares. Yang Fingyi's fake smile faltered, but she nodded. Sure. She hurriedly pulled out a share transfer agreement and handed it over. Now that we're done here, I'll be leaving. Yunqi turned on her heel and left without looking back. As soon as she was gone, Xinyao let loose on her mom. Did you see that idiot strutting around like she's all that? Who does she think she is? You're so short-sighted, you'll never be able to achieve anything big. As long as the Hua family supports us, business opportunities will keep rolling in. Her mother said, exasperated. You need to think long-term. When Yunqi arrived at Hui Yicheng's office, he was in the process of cutting ties with his wife's ex-boyfriend's company. I've reviewed your company's proposal, he told them calmly. There are several issues that need fixing. That's all for today. The other party, trying to recover, asked with a sly grin, Hui Yicheng, is this because Xin Yunqi is my ex-girlfriend? Yicheng's expression hardened as he stood up. Are you saying Yunqi is your ex? Absolutely. You probably don't know this, but we had a thing back in school. She's been desperate for me to take her back ever since. Has she been badmouthing me to you? Yicheng's eyes darkened. President Fu, if that's your take on things, then I see no point in continuing this partnership. The ex-boyfriend, realizing the deal had fallen apart, lost his cool. Xin Yunqi. I know you're still bitter, but do you have to go this far? Don't make this about yourself. You couldn't even hold a candle to me back then, and you're nothing now. Just wait and see, let's find out who'll come out on top. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Yicheng raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. Why were we even considering doing business with someone like that? It was a waste of time, Yunqi agreed, rolling her eyes. He's got some wild fantasies about himself. Did you hear him? He's clearly a scumbag who loves playing the victim. Yicheng studied her face carefully, his gaze icy. Do you have any past grievances with him? Not really. You just heard everything. The guy's delusional and gross, she said, shuddering at the thought. After a pause, Yicheng sighed. Yunqi, I trust you, but I hope you'll trust me too. If anything ever happens, don't keep it from me. She crossed her arms, raising an eyebrow. Fair enough. Speaking of which, my dad and that woman are having a grand opening for their beauty salon soon. Come with me to check it out. It'll be interesting, at the very least. A few days later, the beauty salon officially opened. Yang Fingyi was busy hosting a lavish event in the banquet hall, entertaining influential guests. Everyone was eating, drinking, and having a great time when Xin Yunqi and Hui Yicheng walked in from a distance. The moment Yang Fingyi spotted them, she put on a bright smile and made her way over. Oh, you two finally decided to grace us with your presence, she exclaimed. Yunqi, unimpressed, sidestepped her approach, leaving Yang Fingyi awkwardly standing there. Yicheng, Yunqi, Yang Fingyi quickly recovered, her tone overly cheerful. Why don't you let me take you around and introduce my amazing son-in-law to everyone? Yunchi immediately caught on to her ulterior motive. With a polite smile, she replied, "There's no need for that. Everyone here already knows I Chang." Yang Fengyi continued to flatter, "In fact, many of my friends admire him and have been eager to meet him. Having him here today is already a big boost for the salon." I Chang nodded coolly. "You flatter us too much. We're just here to accompany Yunchi for a quick visit." Yunchi chimed in, "I've been swamped with work lately and have other matters to attend to. We can only stay for 10 minutes. Yang Fengyi's expression didn't falter, though annoyance flickered in her eyes. "I'm just happy you could make it," she said with feigned warmth, but her thoughts betrayed her. "Oh, sure, you're busy, who do you think you're fooling? Enjoy your little victory for now. Let's see who's laughing in the end." Determined to get back at her stepmother, Yunchi decided to turn the tables. "I've heard the salon's been doing quite well recently," she remarked casually. "I Chang and I contributed a lot during the promotion phase. Shouldn't that entitle me to a bigger share of the profits?" Yang Fengyi's smile froze. "Now, Yunchi, let's not be greedy. You already took half last time." Yunchi wasn't fazed. "Young auntie, that's not quite accurate. What I took before was my rightful share. This time, I'm asking for a portion of my father's holdings. After all, when I married I Chang, I didn't take anything from the family. It's only fair I get a share now, don't you think?" Her father looked visibly conflicted but eventually sighed, guilt written all over his face. "She's right. Yunchi deserves her share." Yang Fengyi's temper flared instantly. "Shin Xiong. Do you think the beauty salon belongs to you alone?" she snapped. "Yunchi's married now," she continued, her voice dripping with frustration. "If you divide things this way, how am I and Yaya supposed to survive? Just drink the northwest wind?" Yunchi raised an eyebrow, her tone calm yet pointed. "Young auntie, why are you treating me like an outsider again? That's not what you said when you invited I Chang and me to the grand opening. Dad, don't you think her schemes are a bit much? Honestly, you might as well draft your will now to prevent her and her daughter from draining you dry later." "Xing Yunchi, how dare you make such baseless accusations?" Yang Fengyi hissed. "All right, enough. Stop fighting," Shin Xiong finally interjected, sighing deeply. "Yunchi's right. Over the years, I've failed her in many ways. I'm willing to give her my share." Yunchi's smile softened, but her eyes glimmered with triumph. "I always knew you cared about me, Dad," she said sweetly. Then, pulling out some paperwork, she added, "This document has already been notarized. All you need to do is write down the shares you're giving me and sign." Not missing a beat, Yunchi turned to I Chang with a subtle smirk. "Oh, and hubby, the more shares Dad gives me, the more resources the Hua family will invest, right?" Hua I Chang, who had been silently observing, nodded absent-mindedly. "Yeah, that's right," he confirmed, though his tone betrayed his confusion. Meanwhile, Yang Fengyi's face twisted in fury, as if she might explode on the spot. "Since everything's settled, we'll be heading out now," Yunchi concluded coolly. "Call me if there's anything else." Once back at the Hua family home, Yunchi practically danced with joy as she held up her newly acquired shares. "Oh yeah. 80%. I'm officially loaded now. Nobody's controlling my life ever again," she exclaimed. Hua Yicheng watched her excitement with a mix of amusement and suspicion. "Are you preparing for the agreement's expiration or something?" he wondered silently. "Do you really like money that much?" he asked aloud, his tone half joking. "Of course. Money I earn myself feels amazing to spend. By the way, thanks for helping out this time. If you ever need anything, just let me know." "I owe you one," she replied with a wink. Yicheng's lips curled into a mischievous grin. "Well then, let's close the curtains and do something fun," he teased. Rolling her eyes, Yunchi decided, "Fine. I'm in a good mood today. I'll grab Baoyan, and we'll go eat something delicious." "Baoyan? Oh, I sent her back to Huang Ying's place already," Yicheng replied casually. "What? You sent her back? Why? She clearly didn't want to go." Yunchi retorted, her good mood evaporating in an instant. Yicheng looked frustrated. Baoyan is my sister, what does she have to do with you? Yunqi froze at his response, speechless. Wait a second. I'm your wife, and yet your sister has nothing to do with me? She felt the anger bubbling inside her and wanted to scream, you selfish jerk. Fine, from now on, don't expect me to care about anything that concerns you. After their argument, Yunqi called up her friend Yuan and headed to a bar to vent. We were just starting to get along, and now we're back to square one. Yuan couldn't help but ask, I don't get it, why do you feel like you have to go up against Hui Cheng just because of his stepmom? She looked frustrated and muttered, forget it, don't even mention Hua the dog to me again. I don't care what he does anymore. At the bar, Yunqi was determined to let loose. We don't go out often, so tonight, it's all about having fun. Let's get the strongest drink you have. I'm going to knock this chick next to me under the table. The bartender approached with a recommendation. Ladies, how about this? It's called Silent Donkey. Packs quite the punch. Without hesitation, Yunqi nodded. Perfect. I'll take that one. While waiting for her drink, she turned to the bartender and asked, hey, for years ago, there was this handsome guy who worked here with brown hair. Is he around today? You must mean Jason. He left before I started working here, the bartender replied. I've been here for 4 years. Hearing this, Yunqi paused, lost in thought. The timeline matches perfectly. What really happened back then? The bartender interrupted her musings. Miss, I recommend you sip this drink, it's way stronger than it looks. But Yunqi, ever the risk taker, grabbed the glass and downed it in one gulp. Barely a second later, she wobbled and collapsed onto the bar with a loud thud, leaving Yuan panicked. Yunqi. Are you okay? Wake up. Yuan shook her voice laced with worry. Yunqi's head was spinning as she lay slumped over the bar. Her mind was foggy, and her body refused to move. What's happening? Why am I so dizzy? This stupid drink got me so bad? Unacceptable. Summoning her strength, she cracked her eyes open, and to her shock, she saw Hua Yicheng walking toward her. You idiot, he muttered, exasperation lacing his voice. Did you seriously forget that you're allergic to alcohol? Yunqi wanted to argue, to say something, but her lips wouldn't form the words. All she could do was glare at him helplessly. When Yunqi woke up again, she found herself back at home. What the hell? That wasn't just alcohol, it was practically a sedative, she muttered, annoyed. Yicheng sat nearby, you idiot. Did you forget you're allergic to alcohol? None of your business. I don't need you to meddle in my life, just leave already. You're ruining my mood. Yunqi snapped. Yicheng's expression softened as he reminded her, you owe me a favor, remember? So what? Are you here to cash in now? She shot back. Sensing an opening, Yicheng pulled her into a hug, switching tactics with a playful grin. Come on, don't be mad, wifey. I was wrong, okay? Please forgive me. He started piling on the charm, almost whining. Don't hold a grudge over Baoyan. I'm really sorry. It's not worth fighting over her. Yunqi rolled her eyes, but replied coolly, I'm not even mad. That's your business, I shouldn't care in the first place. Their conversation was interrupted by Yuan knocking on the door. Alright, you two, I'm out. I've got a performance tomorrow, so don't forget to come, Yunqi. Yunqi, blushing slightly, nodded. Got it. I'll be there. As soon as Yuan left, Yicheng's mischievous smirk returned. Baoyan's not here, but we're still staying together tonight, you know. Yunqi tried to protest, but Yicheng swept her into his arms. You're not feeling well. Someone has to take care of you at night, he said, his tone teasing yet firm. The close contact left Yunqi's face burning with embarrassment. The next day, Yunqi arrived at Yuan's performance as promised. Yuan teased her quietly, that bandage on your neck is quite the statement piece. What happened? Ugh, stop it. Yunqi hissed, flustered, but Yuan quickly shifted her attention. Look alive, the green tea girls and white lotus types are watching. Let's give them something better to talk about. Just then, a woman named Mei Qinghan breezed past them, trailed by a pack of reporters shouting over each other. Rumor has it that actress Mei Qinghan and Hua Yicheng are soulmates. Yeah, they really are a perfect match. Before anyone could continue, one journalist pointed out, you might want to pipe down. His real wife is standing right here. Yuan couldn't stand the reporter's nonsense and vented angrily, calling out the media for saying anything just to grab attention. Yunqi consoled her, ignore it. The more outrageous their claims, the better. At that moment, Dong Wanner approached from a distance. Yunqi, do you have a moment? Could we talk privately? Sure. Let's find a quiet spot, Yunqi replied. The two headed to the end of the hallway. Yunqi asked curiously, what's this about? Wanner hesitated before pleading, could you let Yunza go? Stop using Hua Yicheng to suppress him. Yunqi raised an eyebrow. Why should I? Did Fu Yunza send you to beg me? Wanner's expression grew desperate. Yunqi, you can't force love. After all these years, I thought you would have realized that. You're married to Hua Yicheng now. Even if your relationship isn't great, you shouldn't ruin ours. Seeing Wanner's pitiful act, Yunqi decided to play along. With a sly grin, she replied, you're right, I do like Fu Yunza. So, what are you going to do? Hand him over? Before Wanner could respond, Fu Yunza suddenly appeared from nearby, his tone accusatory. I knew you couldn't let it go, but let me make it clear, I only love Wanner. Annoyed by their theatrics, Yunqi turned to leave, only to see Hua Yicheng standing by the doorway. She froze, realizing he must have overheard everything she'd just said. His expression was unreadable, and her heart sank. He must have misunderstood. As Yunqi panicked, Wanner and Yunza all stepped closer. Hua Yicheng's gaze turned icy as he declared, from this day forward, the Fu family is permanently blacklisted from Hua Group partnerships. Without another word, he walked away. Back at the Hua residence that night, the atmosphere was unbearably tense as the two sat on the sofa in silence. Yunqi thought to herself, why won't he just talk to me? Ugh, this stubborn man is impossible. Thinking about everything, Yunqi suddenly lost her temper. She grabbed a bowl of cherries and smashed it onto the coffee table with a loud crash. After venting, she calmed herself down, thinking, forget it. This isn't entirely his fault, it's mine. I need to find a way to ease the tension. She moved closer, testing the waters, only to find that Hua Yicheng was completely ignoring her. Frustrated, she muttered, are you even going to look at me? Hua Yicheng replied coldly, do you need something? Yunqi, desperate to break the ice, offered, how about this, just stop being mad, and I'll agree to one request of yours, no matter what it is. The moment he heard her suggestion, Hua Yicheng's demeanor shifted, and he readily agreed. Deal. Surprised by how quickly he agreed, Yunqi asked cautiously, you're agreeing so fast, what exactly do you want? Hua Yicheng smirked mischievously. You'll find out soon enough. Without another word, he swept her up in his arms and carried her to the bedroom. Blushing, Yunqi stammered, wait, what are you planning to ask for? Seeing her embarrassment, Hua Yicheng leaned in closer and teased, what do you think? Before she could answer, he kissed her, leaving her even more flustered. Later, as they relaxed and scrolled through their phones, a message from Fu Yunza popped up on Yunqi's screen. I need to talk to you about something important tomorrow at noon. Yunqi snorted, showing the text to Hua Yicheng with a smirk. What important thing could he possibly have to say? He's probably up to no good. The next day, the couple met Fu Yunza at the restaurant as planned. Yunqi casually cut into her steak and asked, what's this about? Fu Yunza smirked and said, Yunqi, I know you still have feelings for me. If you can convince Hua Yicheng to keep collaborating with me, I might consider being friends with you. Hearing this, Yunqi burst out laughing in disbelief. Are you serious? Did you not sleep well, or are you just delusional? Before Fu Yunza could respond, Yunqi grabbed her drink and splashed it in his face. What was I even thinking, falling for a mediocre narcissist like you back then? Do me a favor and stay far away from me. You're disgusting. On their way home, Yunqi's phone buzzed with a call from Yuan. Girl, check the trending topics right now. You and Fu Yunze were caught by the paparazzi. Yunqi opened her phone and chuckled. Wow, the click-through rate is through the roof. What do you think Dongwaner will do when she sees these photos? She'll probably cry to the media about being misrepresented and insist that her love with Fu Yunze is unbreakable, Yuan teased. This time, let's see if she can keep up her fragile angel act. If we don't knock her down a peg, she'll think she can walk all over us like she owns the place, Yunqi chuckled. After Fu Yunze secretly meets his ex-girlfriend behind his fiancé's back, Dongwaner finds out and cries her eyes out. Waner, why are you crying? Did I upset you? Fu Yunze asks, his voice feigning concern. Wana looks up at him, her voice trembling. Why did you meet Yunqi without telling me? Are you trying to get back together with her? Of course not. Fu Yunze exclaims. I don't feel anything for her. Even if someone gave her to me for free, I wouldn't want her, he insists. Waner, don't be sad, Fu Yunze continues pleading. Those are all baseless rumors spread by unethical reporters. We're about to get married, how could I possibly cheat on you? Be good, stop overthinking, he adds, secretly relieved that Waner believed him and that Yunqi's plan to expose him hadn't worked. Later that night, in the villa, Yunqi softly knocked on the study door. Zhang Yi told me you didn't come down for dinner. Here, have some warm milk to tide you over. Hua Yicheng responded nonchalantly, okay, just leave it there. Yunqi, noticing Yicheng's distracted expression, curiously leaned over. What's going on? You look off. What are you working on? When she glanced at his computer, her face froze in shock. Oh no. She'd been so caught up in her schemes against Dongwaner that she completely forgot about Hua Yicheng. He was reading the gossip news. You're interested in this kind of tabloid stuff now? She asked nervously. Hua Yicheng turned his sharp gaze on her, without saying a word. Come on, Yunqi said, bracing herself. If you've got something to say, just spit it out and end my misery already. Hua Yicheng raised an eyebrow. Don't you have something you'd like to explain to me? Seeing that he was about to explode, Yunqi quickly explained, he asked me to convince you to take back your decision, but of course, I refused. Then, I just played a little trick on him by calling the reporters. Hua Yicheng, feigning indifference, replied with a haughty tone, I don't really care about such things. Humph, stubborn man, Yunqi muttered inwardly. He says he doesn't care, but he was up reading gossip until late at night. Forcing a pitiful expression, she asked, You're not mad at me, are you? Hua Yicheng looked at her with disdain and retorted, Since when do you care whether I'm mad or not? Yunqi immediately retorted, We live under the same roof, wouldn't it be better to get along? When he realized she wasn't worried out of affection, his mood soured instantly. Slamming his laptop shut, he curtly responded, I'm not mad. Your business has nothing to do with me. But the next day, when Yunqi complained about a stomachache, Hua Yicheng's concern betrayed him. I'll take you to the hospital. If this continues, it could become serious. Yunqi, flustered at the suggestion, protested, Oh no, I know what's wrong. There's no need for the hospital, put me down. Housekeeper Zhang Yi, standing nearby, chimed in, Sir, it's just her period. She doesn't need to go to the hospital. Caught between the two women, Hua Yicheng felt awkward and thought to himself, how could I forget something so basic? I was too worried and lost my head. Yunqi had a rare condition where eating anything cold caused stomach pain. Not knowing this, she drank an iced milk today. Frustrated, she confronted Hua Yicheng, Why won't you just tell me the truth? It's my body, don't I have a right to know? Hua Yicheng brushed her hand away, replying coldly, Don't ask. Some things are better left unknown. Fuming as he slammed the door, Yunqi grumbled to herself, Humph, stubborn man. Fine, if you won't tell me, I'll figure it out myself. Later, Yuan called with gossip. Guess what, superstar Yunqi? Check the trending topics. Fu Yunze actually issued a clarification. Yunqi scoffed as she glanced at her phone. How ridiculous. Let him stir up all the drama he wants. It's none of my concern. Yuan continued, oh, by the way, there's a class reunion this Saturday, and Dong Wanner will be there too. I'll send you the address so we can go and humble that little white lotus together. Yunchi smiled and replied, sure, we definitely need to put her in her place. After hanging up the phone, her stomach started acting up again. Housekeeper Zhang brought her a bowl of brown sugar ginger tea. Madam, drink this while it's hot, it'll help ease the pain. Yunchi responded, all right. By the way, have you seen Hui Yicheng? Zhang Yi replied, sir is on a business trip. He seems to go away for half a month around this time every year. Hearing this, Yunchi felt suspicious. If he does this every year, something must be up. What else is he hiding from me? 5 days later, at the class reunion, the class monitor greeted the old classmates at the door. Ah, you two finally made it. I even saved special seats for you. Thoughtful, right? Following the directions, Yunchi and Yuan sat next to Dong Wanner. Yunchi, I thought you wouldn't come, Dong Wanner said smugly. Yunchi shot back dismissively, why wouldn't I come? It's not like I have anything to feel guilty about. Someone in the group stirred the pot. Wanner, I saw on the trending news that your rich fiancé seems to have someone on the side. Is it true? The comment immediately sparked a heated discussion among the group. Wanner, trying to maintain composure, replied, the wedding is set for next month, but it seems unlikely it'll happen now, right? Yunchi noticed the group's indignation was reaching its peak and decided to fan the flames. Alright, now you know the truth. But let's not rub salt in her wounds in front of her. I heard this isn't the first time Fu Yun's been caught cheating, he's probably just too used to it by now. Luo Chenyan, unable to tolerate the situation, finally exploded. That's enough. You're going too far. Look, Wanner's already crying. Wanner, don't take her nonsense to heart. Just then, the door creaked open, and Fu Yunza himself walked in. Seeing Wanner being bullied, Fu Yunza stepped in to defend her. Turning to Shin Yunchi, he snapped, why are you so unreasonable? Don't think you can bully my girlfriend just because your husband's powerful. Hearing his insult, Yunchi hit back, which eye of yours saw me bullying her? You're just barking accusations the moment you walk in, what breed of dog are you? Hearing this, Yunza became even angrier. Oh, you think you can win me over with such lowly tactics? Let me tell you, that's impossible. The class monitor, seeing things escalate, quickly tried to mediate. Alright, let's not ruin the mood. It's a reunion, we're here to have fun. But Luo Chenyan chimed in, adding fuel to the fire. Honestly, class monitor, don't take her side. At the Hua family, Yunchi is nothing but an upstart who clawed her way to the top. Who knows what tricks she pulled to get there? Hua Yicheng has been with her for so long, but has he ever really treated her with care? He's probably disgusted by her. Before Yunchi could respond, Hua Yicheng entered the room, carrying a bouquet of fresh flowers. He glanced at the crowd and said coldly, this bullying everyone's talking about, I must have missed it, since I don't recall my wife being anything but impeccable. Seeing Hua Yicheng, someone said excitedly, so, the rumors about their relationship being on the rocks were fake, huh? Yunchi took the flowers and asked softly, why are you here? Weren't you supposed to be abroad for a business trip? Without answering her question, Hua Yicheng turned to the room and declared, if any of you don't watch your mouths, I wouldn't mind acquiring a few bankrupt companies for my wife to play with. He then took Yunchi's hand and walked out of the room, leaving the crowd stunned and envious. Later, the two were leaning against the car, stargazing. Yunchi, still puzzled, asked, when did you get back? Just now, Hua Yicheng replied. Then how did you know I was here? Yunchi continued. Didn't Zhang Yi tell me your trip was supposed to last half a month? Why are you back so early? Hua Yicheng deflected, I guessed. I finished things up early and came back. Yunchi couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He's been acting like a robot today, answering every question without any depth. There's definitely something going on. Suddenly, Hua Yicheng's expression changed, his brow furrowed, and his face turned grim. Yunchi anxiously asked, are you feeling unwell again? Hua Yicheng forced a weak smile and replied, "No, I'll be fine after resting for a bit." But before he could finish his sentence, his body went limp, and he lost consciousness. Terrified, Yunqi rushed him home and, once there, nervously asked, "Are you okay? Should we call the doctor?" Seeing that Hua Yicheng remained silent, Yunqi pressed on, "Tell me where you're feeling unwell." Still, he didn't respond, leaving Yunqi frustrated. She thought to herself, he's obviously not asleep, so why is he ignoring me? Just as she was about to leave, Hua Yicheng grabbed her hand and murmured, "Stay quiet and let me hold you for a moment. It makes the pain more bearable." Blushing, Yunqi tried to get up, but Hua Yicheng pulled her closer and kissed her, leaving her weak-kneed and unable to resist. Emboldened by her reaction, Hua Yicheng deepened the kiss, drawing them both into a playful, romantic moment. At Yunqi's birthday party, she held a bouquet of flowers, looking every bit like a princess. Hua Yicheng, ever the attentive husband, brought over her birthday cake. "Make a wish and blow out the candles," everyone urged. Yunqi silently made a wish before blowing out the candles. Just as she did, Yuan smeared a dollop of whipped cream on her face, laughing, "Happy birthday, my dear," before running off to dodge retaliation. Annoyed but playful, Yunqi grabbed some whipped cream and smeared it on Hua Yicheng's face. "Hey, you should join in too," she teased. Not one to back down, Hua Yicheng retaliated by smearing cream into her hair, sparking a full-blown whipped cream fight. Once the chaos ended, Hua Yicheng turned and called out, "Hey, come upstairs and wash my hair." Yunqi pouted, initially wanting to refuse, but the stern look on his face made her obediently follow. In the bathroom, Hua Yicheng lounged in the water, casually commanding, "What are you waiting for? Start washing my hair." Yunqi, slightly embarrassed, replied, "Okay, okay. Let me lather it up first. I'll rinse it off in a moment." She rolled up her sleeves and got to work, her cheeks flushed as she tried to maintain composure. As Yunqi got up, her foot suddenly slipped, and she fell backward, straight into Hua Yicheng's arms. Her hand instinctively landed on his chest, and she couldn't help but notice the firm feel beneath her fingers. Startled, Hua Yicheng asked nervously, "Have you touched enough yet?" Embarrassed, Yunqi retorted, "Who wants to touch you anyway?" She tried to get up, but Hua Yicheng pulled her closer. Just then, her phone rang, breaking the tension. Yunqi glanced at the caller ID and quickly used it as an excuse. "Someone's calling me. I need to take this," she said, hurriedly answering the call. From the other end, an angry voice yelled, "Shin Yunqi. You liar. You promised never to go back on your word. So why are you breaking your promise now?" Calmly, Yunqi replied, "Let's set a time to meet and discuss this." Later at a restaurant's private dining room, Mei Qinghan sat at the table, waving Yunqi over. "Tell me," Mei Qinghan began coldly, "what exactly did you promise me back then?" Feigning ignorance, Yunqi asked, "What do you mean?" Seeing through her pretense, Mei Qinghan slammed a folder onto the table. "Take a look yourself. Some things can't just be erased with a simple 'I forgot.'" Yunqi picked up the file and read it carefully. It detailed how Mei Qinghan had once saved her life and that Yunqi was obligated to unconditionally fulfill any of Mei Qinghan's future requests. Her face darkened as she looked up. "Miss Mei, this so-called evidence is a bit far-fetched, don't you think? And let's not forget all the benefits you've gained over the years by clinging to Hua Yicheng for publicity. Do I really need to spell it out?" Mei Qinghan glared at her and snapped, "Shin Yunqi, are you going to go back on our agreement?" Yunqi smirked, "And if I am? If there's anything you need, I suggest you go directly to Hua Yicheng. Stop trying to use me as leverage." "Humph," Mei Qinghan sneered. "You're tough now, but you'll come crawling back to me one day." A girl loses 4 years of her memory and wakes up to discover she signed a contract akin to selling herself. Determined to uncover what happened during those lost years, Yunqi heads to the hospital. "Hello, can you help me look up my hospitalization records for the past few years?" she asked politely. After a quick search, the receptionist replied, "Ms. Shen, we couldn't find any hospitalization records for you." Yunqi fell into deep thought upon hearing this. It seems someone has deliberately erased my records. How could this happen? Just then, her phone rang. It was Shin Xiong. Yunchi, come home tomorrow. Auntie Yang and I want to celebrate your birthday again, since we missed it. Yunchi thought about it. Auntie Yang Fingy had been someone she interacted with frequently in the past, she might know something. Deciding it was worth a shot, Yunchi agreed. Back at the Hua family villa, an assistant stood by, reporting to Hua Yicheng, Madam seems to be investigating her hospitalization records. Should we stop her? Hua Yicheng waved it off. No need. Let her dig. She won't find anything anyway. At that moment, Mei Qinghan called Hua Yicheng. Yicheng, let's meet tonight, she said. Hua Yicheng rejected her coldly. I'm busy. But the moment Mei Qinghan mentioned Yunchi and her past, Hua Yicheng's demeanor shifted. Reluctantly, he responded, send me the address, and hung up the phone. Hua Yicheng paced back and forth, torn between wanting Yunchi to remember the past and fearing how she would handle the truth. That night, Yunchi returned home, exhausted, and fell asleep almost immediately. In her dreams, she was running frantically, chased by faceless pursuers. Suddenly, her foot caught on something, and she tripped, screaming as she fell. Her dream was abruptly interrupted by a phone call from her friend Yuan Yuan. Still groggy, Yunchi answered, what's up? Yuan, sounding irritated, said, that drama queen Mei Qinghan is at it again. She and Hua Yicheng had dinner tonight, and it's already all over the headlines. The media's having a field day. Yunchi groggily replied to her friend, then hung up and opened the news app. Seeing the headlines, she felt a pang of discomfort. So, Mei Qinghan really did meet up with Hua Yicheng. Looks like they're both hiding something from me. I may not know what leverage she has over him, but one thing's for sure, I can't trust him anymore. She got dressed and headed downstairs, only to find Hua Yicheng working in the living room. You're awake. Go have breakfast, he said. Yunchi snapped back, do I need you to tell me to eat? I'm not a child. Turning to look at him, she thought to herself, if you won't tell me the truth, I'll find out myself. Hua Yicheng frowned. What are you mad about now? All I said was to eat breakfast, what's wrong with that? Yunchi shot him a cold glare. If you won't tell me what happened back then, don't expect us to get along. Hua Yicheng sighed. Sometimes, knowing too much isn't good for you. Fine, Yunchi retorted. If you won't say it, I'll figure it out on my own. With that, the fragile connection between Yunchi and Hua Yicheng completely broke. At the Shin family villa, Yunchi's father sat on the couch, looking remorseful. If I had known, I wouldn't have let Auntie Yang meddle between you two. Now the news is saying Yicheng's cheating, and it's all a mess. It's okay, Dad. Don't worry about it. The media loves to blow things out of proportion, Yunchi said calmly. Yang Fingy, who was sitting nearby, smirked. You couldn't even keep your man in check, so now the whole world gets to see you embarrassed. What a joke. Fingy, that's enough, Yunchi's father chided. Yunchi, unfazed by the taunt, looked at Yang Fingy seriously. Can you tell me what happened 4 years ago? Yang Fingy raised an eyebrow. Oh, so you want to know about 4 years ago? Well, what's in it for me? Realizing she wasn't going to get a straight answer, Yunchi sighed and gave up. If you're not willing to tell me, then forget it. Yang Fingy, realizing she couldn't gain the upper hand, immediately lashed out in a faux confrontational tone. You think you can dig up secrets without showing any sincerity? Dream on. Shin Xiong spoke up, Fingy, since Yunchi wants to know, just tell her. After all, it's all in the past. With a cold snort, Fingy retorted, Miss Shen, with your great capabilities, why not investigate it yourself? After Yang Fingy left, Shin Xiong turned to Yunchi and comforted her, that's just how her temper is. Don't let it get to you, okay? If you really want to know, I can help you find out. Thanks, Dad. You're always so good to me, Yunchi said with a gentle smile. The soup in the kitchen should be ready by now. I'll go check on it, her father stood up. As her father walked away, Yunchi silently thought to herself, even though Dad doesn't hold much authority in this family, Yang Fingy is still his partner. At times, she's bound to let something slip. She discreetly placed a bugging device under the table, hoping to catch any useful information. After dinner, Yunchi got into her car to drive home but hesitated at the thought of seeing Hui-cheng again. Feeling a wave of irritation, she decided, forget it, I'll head to the bar to dig for clues instead. At the bar, she ordered a plate of chicken wings while casually asking, "Is your boss here today? I have something to discuss with him." "Our boss is a busy person," replied the bartender. "If you want to meet him, that depends on your luck." Just as the words were spoken, a man walked in through the door. It was the bar's owner, Xian Feng. Hearing that someone was looking for him, he asked, "Who's asking for me, and what's the matter?" "Hello, Mr. Xian. I'm Shin Yunchi," Yunchi said politely. "Could we talk privately for a moment?" The two of them moved to a booth, and Yunchi got straight to the point. "You used to have a bartender here named Jason. Do you still have his contact information?" "Miss Shin," Xian Feng replied, "that's a bit of a tall order. Staff turnover here is high, how could I possibly remember everyone?" "Then you must have employee records, right?" Yunchi countered. "We do, but that's private information. Why should I share it with you?" Xian Feng raised an eyebrow. "Boss Xian, this is very important to me. If you have any requests, just let me know, I'll do whatever I can to meet them," Yunchi said earnestly. Feeling that she would find it hard to let go of this, Xian Feng, seizing the opportunity, smirked and replied, "Coincidentally, I'm hosting a bar festival in a week and need an advertisement spokesperson. Miss Shin, think you can help with that?" Yunchi thought to herself, what a shrewd businessman. Still, she smiled and replied, "Of course, no problem. Here's my contact information. Please let me know if you hear anything, Boss Xian." "Great, looking forward to working with you." After Yunchi left, Xian Feng pulled out his phone and made a call. Miss Shin came by asking about that incident from back then. "You might be in trouble." As Yunchi walked out of the bar, she called Yuan. "Hey, superstar, I got you a gig as the spokesperson for the Forget Worries Bar Festival. Think you can take it?" Yuan's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Absolutely. I'd love to." Before the words had fully left Yuan's lips, Yunchi suddenly clutched her stomach as a wave of intense pain overtook her. Yuan panicked over the phone, asking, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" By then, Yunchi was already losing strength, her body sliding downward until she collapsed on the ground, unconscious. Yuan's frantic voice continued to echo through the phone. Hui-cheng quickly arrived after Yuan called for help and rushed Yunchi back home. After examining her, the doctor stated, she's suffering from acute gastroenteritis caused by something she ate. I've warned her before that her stomach is delicate. She needs to be more careful. Hui-cheng sighed and replied, "You don't understand. My relationship with her is more complicated than you think." The doctor, now catching on, said with a knowing smile, "Well, since she's sick, now's your time to shine. She's weak, so you'll need to feed her carefully. Stay by her side tonight. And absolutely no funny business." Hui-cheng felt a surge of irritation as he snapped, "Just leave already. If you don't blame me for losing my temper." The doctor smiled, "I'm done talking, okay?" After the doctor left, Hui-cheng glanced at Yunchi with a mix of frustration and concern. "Ah, I really can't do anything about you," he muttered. Just then, Yunchi mumbled in her sleep, "Water. I need water." Seeing her stir, Hui-cheng immediately fetched a glass. "Here, drink slowly. Don't choke. How are you feeling? Does it still hurt?" he asked gently. Yunchi stared at him silently, her anger simmering beneath the surface. "Don't think you can make this all go away just because you're playing caretaker," she thought. She threw back the blanket and tried to leave, but the sharp pain in her stomach returned. "You shouldn't be getting out of bed yet," Hui-cheng said firmly. "Take it easy for a few days. I know you're still mad at me, but let's talk about everything when you're feeling better, okay?" "Fine," Yunchi relented coldly. "I'll be waiting for your explanation." Determined to help her recover quickly, Hui-cheng transformed into a dutiful caregiver, even preparing breakfast himself. Meanwhile, in the bedroom, Yunchi received a message while scrolling through her phone. Just as she was about to open it, Hui-cheng walked in carrying a bowl of porridge. Startled, she quickly hid her phone under the pillow, thinking, ugh, this annoying man always shows up at the worst times. How are you feeling? Hui-cheng asked, sitting down beside her. I'm much better. This porridge smells great. Did Aunt Zhang make it? Yunchi inquired suspiciously. No, Hui-cheng replied with a rare smile. I made it. You? The almighty CEO cooked? That's a shocker. Who knew porridge could stump you? Alright, I'll eat, Yunchi said, clearly unconvinced as she reached for the bowl. I'll feed you, Hui-cheng offered, but Yunchi immediately refused. No, thanks. I can handle it myself. It's fine, Hui-cheng insisted, just consider it my way of making up to you. Yunchi shot him a wary look. What's gotten into you today? Did you eat something weird? Nothing at all. I just genuinely want to take care of you. Don't overthink it, Hui-cheng replied, his tone calm. Yunchi let out a cold laugh. I'm not falling for this, Mr. CEO. Just spill it. What do you really want? Why do you always assume I have ulterior motives? Hui-cheng sighed, his patience fraying. Yunchi pressed on, what do you want me to do, huh? Keep pretending to be the decorative Mrs. Well, while you resent me in silence? Hui-cheng was momentarily speechless at her questioning and turned to leave, saying, I have a meeting to attend. Make sure to eat, okay? After he left, Yunchi rubbed her temples, thinking to herself, what a hypocrite, crying crocodile tears. At that moment, her phone buzzed with 2 new messages. They were from Xian Feng, the bar owner, saying, the materials are ready. Come pick them up at the Floating Cloud Pavilion on Saturday between 1 and 2 p.m. On Saturday, Yunchi arrived at the agreed location on time. Xian Feng handed her a file folder, which she opened to find records showing Jason had joined the company on June 15th and left on the 22nd. She immediately dialed the number listed in the documents, only to find that it was no longer in service. Feeling frustrated, Yuan tried to comfort her. It's okay. We'll think of another way. Xian Feng, who overheard their conversation, chimed in teasingly, here's some friendly advice, don't dwell on the past too much, or you might miss out on what's happening now. Curious, Yunchi asked, what do you mean by that? Xian Feng smiled knowingly. Didn't you know? Mr. Hua and the movie star Miss May are dining here today. Oh, is that so? She likes meddling in others' relationships? Let her try, Yunchi replied indifferently. Yuan, surprised by her nonchalance, exclaimed, are you still the Yunchi I know? You'd usually never let someone else get away with this so easily. Yunchi responded coldly, it's just Mei Qinghan. She's not worth my effort. With that, she walked over to their table. Seeing this, Xian Feng became uneasy and quickly sent Hui-cheng a message, good luck, bro. Your domineering CEO act just met its match. Moments later, Yunchi pretended to accidentally stumble upon the 2 of them being there. Yunchi flagged down a waiter and said, excuse me, could you serve the stir-fried bitter melon I ordered earlier? Hui-cheng felt puzzled, but you don't eat bitter melon, do you? Oh, it's not for me, Yunchi said with a smirk. I noticed Miss May's looking a bit stressed. Bitter melon's great for cooling down and keeping her complexion camera ready. Open wide, I'll feed you myself. Don't worry, eat up, and the bitterness will go away. Mei Qinghan, humiliated by Yunchi's sarcastic jabs, stormed off in anger. After she left, Hui-cheng chuckled. I didn't know you had such acting chops. Ever thought about pursuing a career in showbiz? Yunchi replied with a sly grin, so, Mr. Hua, what do you think? Will you fund my debut? Not really. I still prefer keeping you all to myself. Hui-cheng smiled. But Mr. Hua, what if I really want to act? Not just act, but I'm curious about what this script of ours looks like. Yunchi said as she sat on his lap. Hui-cheng, catching on immediately, stood up and scooped her into his arms. If my wife is that curious, then why not act it out with me and find out? Their intimate posture made Yunqi's cheeks flush slightly. She stammered, Hua Icheng, there are paparazzi outside. If this gets online, it won't look good. Unbothered, Hua Icheng replied smugly, let them post whatever they want. I'll show affection wherever I feel like. With that, he kissed her deeply, leaving Yunqi protesting with muffled murmurs. Stop it. Let's just go home already, she quickly pushed him away. Later that night, Yunqi sat on the rooftop, scrolling through her phone. To no one's surprise, their earlier antics had made it onto the trending topics, with the comment section overflowing with congratulations and envy. However, Yunqi didn't feel particularly joyful. Deep down, the lingering tension between her and Hua Icheng remained unresolved. The next morning, while having breakfast, Yunqi replayed the events in her mind. Hua Icheng is such a strange man. One moment he's cold as ice, the next he's burning hot like the sun. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden notification. A voice message came through from the listening device she'd planted. The message played, Mom, I want to sell Yunqi's jewelry for cash. Do you think she'll come after us? Yang Fengyi's response was dismissive. Sell it if you want. Gifts are like spilled water, there's no taking them back. What can Yunqi even do about it? Don't worry and go ahead. Hearing this, Yunqi let out a soft laugh. How pathetic these two are, she thought. Do they really think they've outsmarted me? Those custom-made pieces have serial codes. Even if they sell them, I'll track them down easily. With an idea forming in her mind, Yunqi picked up her phone and dialed 110. Hello, officer? Someone has stolen my jewelry and is attempting to sell it. Her name is Xin Yao, and I have sufficient evidence to prove it. Meanwhile, at the jewelry store, Xin Yao was livid, shouting at the clerk, how could there be a problem with my jewelry? Are you all out of your minds? The clerk calmly responded, Miss Shin, your jewelry indeed has issues. Officers from the Economic Investigation Unit are already on their way. They'll explain everything to you shortly. Moments later, the officers arrived. Miss Shin Yao, we've received a report that you're selling stolen jewelry at this store. Can you explain where these items came from? Yang Fengyi, realizing the situation, quickly asked, is the person who filed the report named Xin Yunqi? One of the officers confirmed, yes, ma'am, that's correct. Yang Fengyi forced a smile and tried to downplay the situation. Oh, this is just a misunderstanding. Yunqi gave these pieces to my Yao Yao a long time ago. The sisters have been at odds lately, and Yunqi must have reported this in a fit of anger. It's a family matter, if you don't believe me, I can call her to clear it up. Yunqi, entering the scene, sneered, Xin Yao, who gave you permission to take my jewelry? I've never given you anything. Xin Yao shot back, you're lying. Those were gifts from you. Yunqi smirked and retorted, stealing and still acting so defiant, huh? Every piece of this jewelry is under contract, and the documents bear my name in black and white. Miss Xin Yao, unless you can provide proof of my consent to give them to you, you'll need to come with the officers. Seeing the police about to take her daughter away, Yang Fengyi panicked and turned to Yunqi with a pitiful plea. Can't you just let Yao Yao go for my sake? Please, just this once. Yunqi sneered, you'll return all the jewelry and compensate me with 50 million yuan. Hearing the sum mentioned, Yang Fengyi froze. Where would we even get that kind of money right now? Could you accept less? Yunqi chuckled, sure, but first, I'd like to see how sincere you really are. Understanding what Yunqi implied, Yang Fengyi gritted her teeth and reluctantly agreed. I know you're looking into what happened 4 years ago. Fine, I'll give you the marriage agreement between you and Hua Icheng, along with the jewelry funds. When Yunqi heard the mention of the marriage agreement, she felt satisfied, it was exactly what she wanted. Later that afternoon, Yunqi sat in the villa, flipping through her marriage contract. The document contained 4 key points. 1. The agreement would last for 5 years. 2. During this time, Hua Icheng must unconditionally obey her. 3. He was required to provide her with a monthly allowance of 100,000 yuan. 4. The couple would sleep in separate rooms and avoid interfering in each other's lives. As she read this, Yunqi pondered, no wonder Hua Icheng, that old fox always goes along with my requests so easily. Continuing through the paperwork, she stumbled upon Hui Yicheng's blank medical report. Her curiosity was piqued. What exactly is he hiding from me? That evening, the two of them sat on the sofa, scrolling through their phones. Yunqi wanted to ask about the medical report but found herself unable to voice her concern. Feeling conflicted and irritable, she was interrupted when Aunt Zhang approached. "Sir, madam, here's the menu for your 4th wedding anniversary dinner. Please take a look and see if there's anything missing." Yunqi absent-mindedly took the menu, her thoughts still on whether she should confront Hui Yicheng. After a moment of deliberation, she made up her mind and turned to him. "What exactly is wrong with you? Just tell me already." Hui Yicheng looked at her, puzzled. "Why are you suddenly asking this?" Pointing at the menu, Yunqi replied, "There's only 1 year left on the agreement. I'm worried something might happen to you." Realizing she was still probing into his condition, Hui Yicheng's temper flared. He got up abruptly and left the room. "You have no right to meddle in my health matters," he snapped. Yunqi thought to herself, "I'm only asking because I care." Was there really a need to blow up like this? This temper of his, will it ever improve? A few days later, Yunqi sat on the balcony, letting the breeze blow through her hair. That scumbag Hui Yicheng, after an argument, he just disappears? The day after tomorrow is our anniversary, and I don't even know if he'll show up. She pulled out her phone and called Nia Yuzhen. "Hey, do you know where Hui Yicheng has been lately? I can't find him anywhere." Nia Yuzhen hesitated. I'm not really sure about that, sis." "You definitely know something. Spill it, or I'll make sure you regret it," Yunqi threatened, her tone sharp. Under her pressure, Nia Yuzhen had no choice but to confess. "He's at Qingshan Sanatorium, room 312. Yunqi froze for a moment before hanging up the call. "The sanatorium? What's he doing there?" Determined, she set off immediately. On the road, her car sped through traffic like a bullet, her eyes cold and focused. Arriving at the sanatorium, Yunqi stormed through the hallways and found room 312. Just as she was about to enter, she overheard a conversation inside. "Your mitochondria have already started deteriorating. If this continues, your brain cells will die off completely, and so will you. I've contacted a specialist in mitochondrial research from abroad. Be prepared for the surgery." Yunqi stood frozen by the doorway, her mind reeling from the revelation. Then she pushed the door open with a sarcastic jab. "So this is why you don't come home? You're just lying around here, all comfortable?" Hui Yicheng's face went pale when he saw her. "How did she even find me?" Flustered, he stammered, I swear I'm here against my will. Do you believe me?" The doctor sighed and muttered, "You two should talk things out properly. Just, avoid digging too deep." Then, without waiting for their response, he bolted for the door. Yunqi slowly walked to the bedside, her face serious. "What's wrong with you? What kind of illness needs treatment at a sanatorium?" Hui Yicheng forced a smile, trying to downplay the situation. "It's nothing. I'm perfectly fine." "Fine? Do you really want to keep hiding this?" Yunqi slammed a medical report onto the table. "Then explain this to me." Hui Yicheng was at a loss for words. "I hope you can be honest with me," Yunqi continued, her tone firm. "Otherwise, one day I might become a widow without even knowing why. The day after tomorrow is our wedding anniversary. If you don't plan on coming back, I'll just invite a few friends over to celebrate instead. But if you do plan to come home, make sure you bring an explanation with you." As Yunqi's figure disappeared down the hallway, Hui Yicheng stood still, a shadow of regret flickering across his face. If things keep going like this, she'll find out sooner or later, he thought, his chest tightening at the possibility. Meanwhile, back at the Shen residence, chaos had erupted. Yang Fingyi, furious after Yunqi had extorted money from her, turned her anger on Shen Xiong. "You useless old man. Go and get that money back, or I'm filing for divorce." Shen Xiong, weary of her relentless shouting, attempted to leave the room, but Yang Fingyi grabbed his arm, yanking him back with more force than intended. Off balance, he stumbled, hitting his head against the edge of the coffee table. Blood began pooling beneath him as Yang Fengyi froze, her face paling with panic. She had only meant to push him, but now she had lit a fire she couldn't contain. When Yunqi received the call about her father's injury, she rushed to the hospital, her face a mask of icy determination. She confronted Yang Fengyi in the waiting area, her voice cutting like a blade. "What happened to my father?" Instead of answering, Yang Fengyi sneered. "You're nothing but a bringer of bad luck, just like your dead mother. Every time you show up, something terrible happens." The insult snapped something in Yunqi. Her rage boiled over, and she grabbed Yang Fengyi by the collar, her voice trembling with fury. "You don't get to mention my mother. If anything happens to my father, I'll make sure you and your daughter pay for it." Before Yang Fengyi could respond, Yunqi's hand lashed out, striking her hard across the face. The blow sent Yang Fengyi crumpling to the floor. "You hit me. That's assault, and you'll pay for this." Yang Fengyi screeched, clutching her cheek. Yunqi laughed coldly, pulling a thick wad of cash from her bag and throwing it at her. "Is this enough? Or should I hit you a few more times to make it worth it?" Yang Fengyi snarled, her words venomous. "You're insane, Yunqi. You're just like your dead mother, worthless and cursed. One day, you'll rot in hell, just like her." Unfazed, Yunqi fired back with a smirk. "You're older than me, so I'm sure you'll get there first. Enjoy your head start." Hours later, Yunqi found herself slumped against the wall outside the operating room. The adrenaline had faded, leaving her feeling utterly drained. For all her strength, she was still just one person, and the weight of it all was becoming unbearable. Suddenly, Hui Yicheng appeared behind her, his arms wrapping around her shoulders. His voice was low, steady. "Don't worry. I'm here now. You're not alone." When Yunqi saw Hui Yicheng arrive, the dam broke. Tears streamed down her face as she clung to him, her voice trembling. "Yicheng, I'm so scared. I'm terrified that my dad won't make it through this." Hui Yicheng held her tightly, his voice firm yet soothing. "Don't be afraid. Everything will be fine. No matter what happens, I'll be here with you." As Yunqi looked up at him, a storm of emotions churned within her. She still resented him for hiding the truth, but every time she needed someone, he was always there. Taking a deep breath, she whispered, "Thank you, Yicheng. I feel a little better now." Once Yunqi had calmed down, Hui Yicheng turned his attention to the situation. "How's your dad? Any updates?" She shook her head, her expression grim. "Nothing yet. The surgery isn't over." Just then, the operating room doors swung open, and a doctor stepped out, scanning the waiting area. "Who's the family member of Shinxiong?" Yunqi stepped forward, her hands trembling. "I am." "How is he?" The doctor's face was serious. "The situation is critical. The impact caused severe head trauma, leading to intracranial bleeding. We need to perform a craniotomy to remove the clot. I'll need a family member to sign the consent form." Taking the pen with shaky hands, Yunqi signed her name, her legs threatening to give out beneath her. She turned to Hui Yicheng, clutching his sleeve, desperation spilling out in her voice. "Please, you have to save my father." Hui Yicheng placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "I'll do everything I can. I've already called in the best specialist in the hospital. Trust them." At that moment, Yunqi's phone buzzed. She answered, her voice still shaky. Yuan, what's wrong?" Her friend's voice was sharp. "Yunqi, have you heard? Yang Fengyi is trying to marry Xinyao off to Xiao Junwei." Yunqi furrowed her brows, thinking to herself, she's pushing for this marriage just to climb into a wealthy family while my father is still undergoing surgery. Let's see how I mess with her little plan. At home, Yang Fengyi asked her daughter worriedly, "What about you, Yao Yao? How are things going with him?" Xinyao's voice was filled with unease. "It's going okay, but Mom, I've heard rumors that Xiao Junwei is a player. He has a lot of women around him." Yang Fengyi's voice cut in sharply. "Don't worry about that. I've already thought of a plan for you. Just follow my instructions, and we'll secure your position as Mrs. Xiao without fail. Xinyao beamed with joy at her mother's encouragement, nodding firmly. I'll follow your instructions to the letter. Yang Fengyi's voice grew sharper, tinged with malicious glee. Yao Yao, by the time Shen Yunqi ends her marriage contract with Hui Yicheng in a year, she'll be nothing but a cast-off. You have to make sure to crush her beneath your feet. Xinyao's smile hardened with determination. Of course. I'll make sure we reclaim everything we've lost. At the hospital, Yunqi busied herself with her father's care, carefully tending to him. A sudden knock at the door pulled her attention, and Yuan Yuan entered, carrying a basket of fruit. Yunqi, you look terrible. Have you been resting at all these past few days? Yunqi tried to wave off the concern, her voice light. I'm fine, really. Yuan Yuan wasn't convinced and pressed further, her tone a mix of curiosity and concern. You're so stubborn, you know that? I don't even know who you take after. But seriously, what are you planning to do about your dad and that woman? Yunqi sighed, her expression conflicted. It's his personal business. Once he wakes up, it's up to him to decide. Yuan Yuan's face grew serious as she recalled something. Oh, right. There's something I didn't get to tell you over the phone the other day. I went to a banquet recently, and guess who I saw? Your darling little sister, getting all cozy with that playboy, Xiao Junwei. They left together afterward, and honestly, I think they've been a thing for a while. A mischievous glint sparked in Yunqi's eyes at the revelation. If Xinyao is so desperate to marry into a rich family, why don't we help her out? Let's see how she handles being one of Xiao Junwei's many women. Those girls don't play nice. Yuan Yuan clapped her hands with glee, already on board with the plan. Yes. Let's show her who's boss. She needs to know that Mrs. Hua isn't someone to mess with. Yunqi, who had been silently observing, shook her head in exasperation. My friend, don't forget the countdown on my marriage to Hui Yicheng. When the time's up, we're going our separate ways. Yuan Yuan's eyes sparkled with mischief as she nudged Yunqi. Oh, please. We both know you've fallen for Hui Yicheng. You might not admit it, but your actions speak louder than words. Yunqi's face flushed, and she shook her head, but her resolve wavered. Stop with the nonsense. Yuan Yuan laughed, patting her on the shoulder. We'll see who's right. Just don't come crying to me when you realize you can't let him go. Over dinner, Yunqi tried to probe his thoughts, her tone light yet curious. There's just 1 year left before we go our separate ways. Are you happy about it? Her words hit Hui Yicheng harder than she expected. His voice turned cold as he countered, do you think I'd be happy? I figured you'd be the one looking forward to it. Yunqi met his gaze, her own eyes holding a hint of longing. She thought, if you don't want to get divorced, then don't. He had the same thought, but his words betrayed him. I'll do anything to make the time we have left happier for you. Yunqi let out a bitter laugh upon hearing this. I have to admit, being your wife has its perks. Everyone treats me with such reverence, just because of your name. So, here's to us, Mr. Hua, cheers to the final year of our marriage. She raised her glass of water in a toast and downed it in one go before wiping her mouth. I'm heading upstairs to rest. You should get some sleep too. As she walked away, an ache settled in her chest. Maybe it's for the best that this lie of a marriage ends here. It's freedom for both of us. But as those thoughts swirled, her foot slipped on the staircase. Her body tipped backward, and for a moment, panic shot through her, she was about to hit the ground. Before she could crash, Hui Yicheng caught her in a swift, protective move. Holding her close, his voice was uncharacteristically soft and urgent. Wife, let's not get divorced, okay? Without another word, he leaned in and kissed her. The tension Yunqi had been carrying instantly melted away, and she teasingly returned the kiss. Well, that depends on how you perform tonight. Back in the bedroom, Yunqi playfully tugged on Hui Yicheng's tie, her voice dripping with allure. Tell me, little Hua, do you think your sister Hua is beautiful? Hui Yicheng, blushing slightly, responded, beautiful? She raised an eyebrow. Then what are you waiting for? Or are you expecting a girl like me to make the first move? After a passionate night, Yunchi felt much calmer. Divorce, marriage, it all seemed trivial. Why not just enjoy the present? Maybe this was their fate. The next morning, Yunchi groggily heard a knock at the door. She reached out to the side, only to grasp at empty sheets. Hui Yicheng had already left. After getting dressed and heading downstairs, she opened the door to find Dr. Nya standing there. Sis-in-law, I heard that my brother was called to the Hua family estate early this morning, and there's been no news from him since. I'm worried something might have happened. Can you go check on him? Yunchi nodded. Alright, I'll get ready and head over now. Standing in the grand yet suffocating Hua family estate, Yunchi waited with a cold expression. She thought to herself, this place is unbearable. Just then, Bao Yan came running over from a distance. Sis-in-law, I missed you so much. If I hadn't been feeling unwell and had to come back for a checkup, I wouldn't have wanted to be apart from you. At the Hua family estate, Yunchi and Bao Yan played happily in the courtyard. However, the old master, hearing the chatter outside, grew irritated. He slammed the table and roared, "When do you plan to divorce her?" Hui Yicheng replied firmly, "I have no intention of divorcing her." The old master's face darkened. Stubborn fool. If you can't even give up a woman, how will you ever accomplish anything? Humph, you'll suffer for this sooner or later. Hui Yicheng's anger flared at her words. He asked coldly, "So this is why you abandoned my mother?" The old master, unwilling to back down, responded icily, "You're beyond saving. Put the company matters aside for now, and take some time to rest." Hui Yicheng let out a cold laugh at the mention of his removal. "So I hold no value in your eyes anymore? I assume you've already found someone to replace me?" Yicheng, I know you're resentful, but this isn't the time for stubbornness. Feigning concern, the old master continued, but Hui Yicheng cut him off indifferently. Enough. There's no need to say more. I'll submit my resignation tomorrow and voluntarily step down as CEO of Hua Corporation. As he stepped outside, he spotted Yunchi playing with Bao Yan in the courtyard. What did you talk about in there? Was it about the divorce? Yunchi asked. Hui Yicheng replied with a hint of disappointment, I was summoned here in such a rush, I thought it was something important. Don't worry about the divorce. Let's just enjoy each day as it comes. Before Yunchi could respond, Bao Yan ran over excitedly from a distance. Brother, can I go to your house? I want to play with sister-in-law. Hui Yicheng smiled. Of course, let's go home together. Brother, I also want cake. Can we get some later? Yunchi gently patted Bao Yan's little head. Cake alone won't do, you need milk tea to go with it. Hearing that there'd be milk tea too, Bao Yan cheered with excitement. Listening to their conversation, Hui Yicheng fell into deep thought. If that child had been born back then, we would have been a happy family of 3 by now. The next morning, when Yunchi came downstairs for breakfast, she was surprised to see Hui Yicheng. Whoa, Xiao Hua, what are you doing here? Hui Yicheng raised an eyebrow. Why wouldn't I be here? Yunchi was puzzled. Since when did this workaholic become so laid back? Just then, a breaking news report interrupted their conversation. This just in, Hui Yicheng has officially resigned as CEO of Hua Corporation. Following the announcement, Hua Corporation's stock price plummeted at market open. Yunchi turned to him in shock. You idiot, why would you step down as CEO? Hui Yicheng sighed like an old man. It's complicated. Besides, I could use a break, time to embrace my kept husband era. Yunchi frowned. You've worked so hard for years to build the company, only to hand it over to someone else. Are you really okay with that? It's fine. Anyone who wants to swallow this big piece of meat will need an enormous appetite, he replied casually. Just then, Bao Yan ran over excitedly. Sister-in-law, cake. Still half asleep, Bao Yan had clearly been dreaming about cake. Yunchi chuckled and gently patted her head. Alright, I'll buy you some after breakfast. After finishing her meal, Yunchi headed to a cake shop. Hi, could you get me some cake suitable for kids? At that moment, Xinyao walked in with her wealthy heir boyfriend. She smirked. Well, if it isn't my dear sister. Long time no see. With everything going on with Hui Cheng, you still have the mood to buy cake? Not worried you won't be able to pay for it? Holding a grudge over years of resentment, Xinyao turned to the shop assistant. I'll take every cake in this store. Pack them all up for me. The employee, thrilled at such a huge order, responded eagerly, right away. Yunqi scoffed. What, I'm not even allowed to buy a cake now? You're seriously this childish? Xinyao sneered. Oh, don't tell me you actually can't afford it. If you're broke, I can have Junwei find you a man, your mom sure couldn't survive without one. Yunqi scoffed at Xinyao's taunts and fired back coldly. It's honestly baffling that young Master Xiao would be into someone as brainless as you. Mrs. Hua, times have changed. The wise know when to adapt, don't they? Yunqi sneered, well then, I'd love to see just how long you two can last. Xinyao became angry. What are you even so arrogant about? Hui Cheng is nothing now. You really think anyone's still going to protect you? And if no one does, so what? Yunqi shot back. You think I'd be afraid of you? After receiving the cake from the shop assistant, Xinyao showed concern. Sis should cherish this gift. Who knows, this might be the last time you get to eat one. Well, thanks for your concern, Yunqi replied coldly. With that, she grabbed the cake in her hand and tossed it straight into the trash. Better save some, who knows when you'll get your next meal. Xinyao's face twisted in rage. You really don't know what's good for you, do you? You'd better learn to keep a low profile, dear sister, she added with a fake smile. Yunqi also smiled back at her. Oh, and to thank you for all the care you've shown me over the years, I've prepared a little surprise for you. You'll see soon enough. Go ahead, Xinyao replied indifferently. Pull whatever tricks you want. Xiao Junwei, who had been watching their exchange, finally stepped in. No need to waste your breath on someone like her. She's just running her mouth. Saw that, Yunqi feels disgusted, they really do say birds of a feather flock together. As the two walked off, Yunqi pulled out her phone and sent a message to Yuan, find me a few women connected to Xiao Junwei. Oh, and spread some dirt on Xinyao while you're at it. Yuan quickly replied, got it. Consider it done. This house was once her prison, but now, it felt more like home. Happily stepping into the house, she called out loudly, Yicheng, I'm back. Come here, food's ready, he responded. Sis-in-law, why were you out for so long? Baoyan pouted. I missed you. Yunqi chuckled and pinched her cheek. Little foodie, I think you just missed the cake I brought back, huh? Watching Baoyan's adorable expression, Yunqi fell into thought. If Yicheng and I had a child in the future, we'd probably be really happy. He'd make a great dad. But it was a shame, they only had a year together. There wouldn't be a future for them. Shaking off the thought, she turned to tease Baoyan. Let me see which little glutton is drooling over here. Baoyan eagerly raised her tiny hand. Me. As they happily ate cake, Yunqi's phone suddenly buzzed. She answered without thinking. Who is this? A voice from the other end replied, it's Fu Yunze. The moment she heard his name, her mood soured instantly. Her tone turned cold. What do you want? Sensing her hostility, Fu Yunze sneered. You should watch yourself. Do you still think you're Mrs. Hua? Yunqi scoffed. Fu Yunze, are you out of your damn mind? Calling me just to get a sense of your own importance? Hearing her words, Fu Yunze was stunned. His face darkened. You really don't know what's good for you, do you? He chuckled mockingly. I'll give you a chance, if you get down on your knees and beg, maybe I'll consider helping you. Yunqi's temper flared instantly. Go screw yourself, you brainless ape. Even if I lost everything, I wouldn't need your damn help. She scoffed. Even if Hui Yicheng sat around doing nothing all day, he'd still be 1,000 times better than a piece of trash like you. Fu Yunze was momentarily speechless, clearly taken aback by her sharp tongue. You. Hui Yicheng, having overheard the conversation, couldn't help but smirk. So that's how highly she thinks of me, huh? Just then, Yunqi's phone buzzed again, 2 new messages from Yuan Yuan. Found Xiao Junwei's real girlfriend. Tomorrow, Manhwa Cafe. Get ready for a good show. Seeing the update, Yunqi's mood instantly improved. That's my girl, always coming through. At that moment, Hui Yicheng walked over and pulled Yunqi into his arms. She instinctively hit against his chest, a little nervous. Oh no, he heard everything I just said. My image is completely ruined. But Hui Yicheng didn't bring up the conversation. Instead, he simply took her hand and led her to the dining table. Come on, let's eat before it gets cold. Blushing, Yunqi nodded. Okay. Next day, at the cafe, Yunqi and her bestie had set up a little trap to deal with her rebellious younger sister. Yuan Yuan checked the time and asked, "We've been waiting so long. Where are Xinyao and Xiao Junwei?" Don't worry, Yunqi assured her. They should be here soon. I heard it straight from the source. Right on cue, the 2 main characters arrived. Xinyao, looking seductive, leaned against Xiao Junwei's chest and playfully whined, "You're so bad." I love it. Yunqi perked up immediately. Finally, time for the show. Completely unaware of the impending disaster, Xinyao found a seat and continued to flirt. Bro Junwei, can I have something icy to drink today? Xiao Junwei chuckled indulgently. Of course, silly girl. I know what you mean. From a distance, Yunqi and Yuan Yuan watched the nauseating display, thoroughly disgusted. Yunqi nudged Yuan Yuan. Alright, time for the second female lead to enter the scene. Yuan Yuan smirked mischievously. On it. Just then, a furious woman stormed into the cafe. Xiao Junwei. What the hell is going on here? Xinyao frowned in confusion. Who's this, Junwei? Do you know her? Before Xiao Junwei could react, the woman, his actual girlfriend, Coco, charged forward, her face twisted with rage. You shameless homewrecker. Does it feel good stealing someone else's boyfriend? Coco grabbed Xinyao's hair and yanked hard, shouting for everyone to hear. Look at this cheap tramp. Thinks she can just insert herself into someone else's relationship, what a skank. Xinyao yelped in pain, struggling to break free. Let go of me. I'm Bro Junwei's girlfriend. Coco wasn't having any of Xinyao's excuses. She raised her hand and slapped her hard across the face, knocking her straight to the floor. I've been with Xiao Junwei since last year. And you dare call yourself his girlfriend? The surrounding crowd erupted in agreement, their voices filled with righteous fury. Good hit. Mistresses like her deserve a beating, otherwise, they'll just keep sneaking around. Xinyao sat on the ground, completely stunned. She looked around in a daze and suddenly spotted Yunqi watching from the sidelines. Immediately, she put the pieces together, this had to be her doing. If I get the chance, I won't let her off so easily. Yunqi caught her resentful gaze and sneered. Now that was a show. Xinyao saw the smug satisfaction in Yunqi's eyes and snapped. She shot up and screamed, "You vicious woman. If I'm a homewrecker, it's all because of you." Yunqi pretends to be innocent, this has nothing to do with me, I was just here for coffee. It's all a coincidence. Later that night, at the Xiao family villa. Xinyao and Xiao Junwei were entangled in a passionate embrace. Yao Yao, don't cry, Xiao Junwei murmured, holding her tightly. It's my fault. I didn't handle the women around me properly and made you suffer. He stroked her hair, voice filled with regret. I don't blame you at all. This was all my sister's doing. She's been bullying me since we were kids. Now that her husband resigned and turned into a broke loser, I bet she set this up out of jealousy. Xinyao sniffled and wiped her tears, then leaned in closer. Bro Junwei, now that Hui Yicheng has left the Hua Corporation, why don't you take this chance to acquire and merge their assets? If we do this right, the Xiao family will become the undisputed #1 powerhouse. Xiao Junwei hesitated. That might not be possible. Even if Hui Yicheng stepped down, the Hua family is still powerful. A starving camel is still bigger than a horse, I'm worried this might backfire. Xinyao's lips curled into a sly smile. Bro Junwei, the Hua Corporation is practically an empty shell without him. Opportunities like this don't come often. You're the smartest and most capable. If we pull this off, not only will we get rich, but I'll also have my revenge. 2 birds with 1 stone. Don't you think it's worth it? Xiao Junwei, flattered by Xinyao's praise, instantly grew more confident. His face flushed as he chuckled, all right, my little seductress. She was so arrogant before, now look at how pathetic she is. A few days later, at President Hua's office, Old Master Hua anxiously discussed the matter with his secretary. You're saying Xiao family snatched that piece of land in Beicheng from us? Yes. They exploited an internal loophole. Now, they're aggressively squeezing our resources. What about the development zone? It's not looking great. It's risky over there, too. Xiao family is in the middle of an asset acquisition audit. If we act fast, we could intercept it within 10 days. Upon hearing his secretary's report, the old man erupted in fury. What about Hua Yicheng? Still refusing to come back? Mr. Hua said he wants to take more time off. TCH, I'll go personally and bring him back, the old man said with a sigh. At the Hua family villa, Hua Yicheng was watering the flowers when a Rolls-Royce pulled into the courtyard. He turned his head and saw the old man marching over, looking furious. Yicheng, how much longer do you plan on acting out? Hua Yicheng set the watering can down and raised an eyebrow. Acting out? Didn't you say it yourself back then? Do I need to remind you? The old man sighed. I admit I was too harsh before. What will it take for you to return to Hua Corp? My condition is simple, transfer all your shares to me and make me the true head of the company. The old man's face turned red with anger, and he started coughing violently. Are you trying to force me into a dead end? I've stated my terms. If you don't agree, you can leave. Hua Yicheng said decisively. Wait, I'll give you half. Seeing the old man compromise, Hua Yicheng decided not to push further. All right. Then please prepare the transfer documents. When will you return to work? The old master Hua's impatience was evident. Hua Yicheng waved a hand dismissively. I'll go back when I feel like it. That night, Yunqi and Hua Yicheng were watching the news together, chatting. The Xiao Corporation stock prices keep rising, while Hua Corp's keep falling. Yicheng, aren't you worried at all? Yunqi asked, raising an eyebrow. Nope. I know what I'm doing. Hua Yicheng replied confidently, his gaze fixed on the screen. Yunqi sighed dramatically. Ugh, the emperor isn't worried, but his consort sure is. Hua Yicheng looked at her. Yunqi, do me a favor. She raised an eyebrow, her curiosity piqued. Oh? Even the great President Hua needs my help? Let's hear it. This task is more convenient for you as Mrs. Hua. He smirked. I need you to host a banquet. I'm going to teach my prey a lesson and show them who's in charge. Her eyes widened, half amused and half concerned. Aren't you afraid they'll bite back? He leaned closer, his eyes cold and calculating. That's exactly why they need discipline, because they're too unruly. Time to rein them in properly. As soon as he finished speaking, he lunged at her like a wolf dog in pursuit. With his return to the company decided, Hua Yicheng set his sights on making an example out of the Xiao family. At the banquet hall, Yunqi instructed the staff, is everything in the kitchen prepared? Yes, ma'am. Everything is ready. Rest assured, tonight's guests are all from prestigious families. The Hua family mustn't lack in etiquette. She let out a sigh, lost in thought. Hua Yicheng, first refusing to work, now throwing a banquet. What is he even thinking? Do rich people have their rebellious phase this late in life? Hua Yicheng, standing nearby, chuckled. Mrs. Hua, you've worked hard. Yunqi smiled. Not at all. This is nothing for me. That evening, outside the grand banquet hall, Xiao Junwei arrived with Xinyao in tow. The surrounding guests whispered among themselves. Why did the Hua family invite them? Aren't the two families sworn enemies? Who knows? Maybe Hua Corp wants to use this banquet to negotiate peace. Xinyao clung to Xiao Junwei's arm, her voice dripping with admiration. Junwei, look at you. So many nobles gathered at the entrance just to welcome you. As they stepped into the hall, Xiao Junwei raised his hand in greeting toward Hui Yicheng. Just as Hui Yicheng was about to respond, Xiao Junwei casually withdrew his hand with a smirk. Oh, I almost forgot, you're not even qualified to shake my hand anymore. Seeing her husband insulted, Yunxi's anger flared, and she was ready to charge forward. Fortunately, Hui Yicheng stopped her just in time. Xinyao sneered, face reality, Yunxi. You and your husband combined aren't even worth a single finger of my Junwei. Oh? I hope you'll still be this confident in a moment, Hui Yicheng shot back. Turning slightly, Hui Yicheng gave his assistant a subtle signal. Luo Wei, close the net. Just as Hui Yicheng finished speaking, Xiao Junwei's phone rang. President Xiao, bad news. Our company's cash flow is completely tied up due to continuous acquisitions, and now our funds have run dry. Worse yet, the land we snatched earlier, there were issues with the paperwork, and the authorities have reclaimed it. Xiao Junwei was stunned. How could this happen? He snapped his head toward Hui Yicheng. You tricked me? Hui Yicheng's expression remained calm. President Xiao, why would you say that? You can eat recklessly, but you shouldn't speak recklessly. Before Xiao Junwei could respond, his phone rang again. This time, it was a flood of furious calls from business partners, demanding answers. Then, his father's name flashed on the screen. The moment he answered, an enraged voice bellowed, You useless fool! Is this how you manage the Xiao group? Of all the people to provoke, you just had to go after that workaholic, Hui Yicheng. Absolute nonsense. If you don't fix this mess, get the hell out of my house. The arrogance drained from Xiao Junwei's face. Defeated, he turned to Hui Yicheng and pleaded, I was blind. Please, have mercy on me. I won't dare to go against you again. Hui Yicheng smirked. If you want my forgiveness, return everything you took from Hui Corp, twice over. Without hesitation, Xiao Junwei nodded frantically. No problem. Whatever you say, President Hua. Realizing they had been utterly played, Xiao Junwei turned on Xinyao. You wretched woman. If it weren't for your scheming, I wouldn't be in this mess. Apologize to Mrs. Hua now. Watching them turn on each other, Yunxi smirked. Well. Where's all that arrogance at the cake shop? Weren't you acting all high and mighty back then? Xinyao scoffed. Why should I apologize? Before she could resist, Xiao Junwei forced her into a bow. Apologize to her now. With his hands pressing her down, Xinyao had no choice but to grit her teeth and mutter, Sister. I'm sorry. I was wrong. After pulling Xinyao away, Xiao Junwei cursed, You brainless crazy woman. Do you even know when to back down? Yunxi watched them leave with a smirk, clearly enjoying the show. Trying to play business wars with that level of skill? Pathetic. Hui Yicheng turned to Yunxi and asked, What do you want to do next? But before she could respond, Hui Yicheng suddenly clutched his head in pain. A wine glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor with a sharp crash. Moments later, he collapsed and had to be rushed to the hospital. Yicheng, you're awake. Are you still feeling unwell? Yunxi asked worriedly. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. He paused, a faint smile playing on his lips. By the way, I haven't had the chance to interview you. How does it feel to be the legendary Mrs. Hua? Yunxi scolded him with a mix of annoyance and concern. Oh, stop it already. Look at you, lying in a hospital bed, and you're still joking. What you really need to do is rest properly. Did you hear me? She gazed at his pale, fragile face, her heart aching. With my father still in a vegetative state, you're the only family I have left by my side. But this stubborn man refuses to show weakness, even now, when he's clearly unwell. Yicheng, can't we be honest with each other? What's really going on? What illness do you have? Yunxi continued to ask. Hui Yicheng hesitated for a moment before reluctantly confessing, it's mitochondrial disease. Don't worry too much, I'm actively cooperating with treatment. Your title as Mrs. Hua won't be going anywhere anytime soon. She gave him a sharp glare. You stubborn old fool. Do you want me to hit you? Before he could retort, Dr. Nya suddenly burst into the room. Hey, I'm here for rounds. Did my handsomeness knock you two out yet? Both Hua Yicheng and Yunxi rolled their eyes at his antics. Dr. Nya ignored their reactions, closed the curtains around the bed, and reassured Yunxi, don't worry, I've got this under control. After leaving the room, Yunxi couldn't shake her unease. Distracted, she pulled out her phone and searched for mitochondrial disease. The results were overwhelming, full of complex medical terms she couldn't understand. A little while later, Dr. Nya came out after completing the checkup. Seeing Yunxi still standing there, he asked with a smile, why haven't you left yet? About Yicheng's condition. Sis-in-law, don't worry too much. The pandemic situation is stable right now, and from a pathological perspective, the brain lesions have been contained and haven't spread further. However, the downside is that his brain is quite fragile. Frequent episodes could cause further damage, and the hereditary nature of this disease is quite high. We've already started collaborating with international teams who have more experience in this field. Our almighty CEO is battling mitochondrial disease, and if something triggers him, it could result in another critical episode. Watching Hua Yicheng lying in the hospital room, Yunxi couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy. Just how much have you endured all these years? A few days later, Hua Yicheng was discharged and began learning how to cook at home. Yunxi, with a cold expression, asked, so, Mr. Big Shot, when do you plan on going back to work? Finally catching a break, the overworked man held tightly onto his chance to rest. A hardworking person like me finally gets a vacation, so of course I'm not wasting it. Besides, Mrs. Hua, we're not talking about work on my day off. Come taste my masterpiece. Yunxi took a bite of the American-style dish he made, her eyes lighting up with excitement. Wow, this is amazing. Hua Yicheng, you're either all in or nothing, huh? Your cooking skills are chef's kiss. Just then, a child's voice piped up. What are you two sneaking around eating? I could smell it all the way upstairs. I want some too. Alright, Baoyan, come join us. If it's not enough, he'll make more, Yunxi replied with a warm smile. At that moment, a servant approached Yunxi, handing her an invitation. Madam, this just arrived. I believe it's from Yuan. After glancing at the invite and hesitating for a moment, Yunxi said, I have an event to attend today, so I guess I won't be able to enjoy more of your cooking, Mr. Hua. What event? Hua Yicheng inquired curiously. Yuan is launching her own brand and asked me to help generate some buzz, Yunxi explained. Baoyan, come with me. There will be plenty of little cakes for you to eat. Hua Yicheng perked up immediately. Taking off his apron, he declared, if Baoyan's going, then I'm going too. No way, Yunxi said firmly. You just got out of the hospital and need to rest. These events are exhausting, both physically and mentally. You're staying home. Hua Yicheng gave her a look of mock exasperation. Yunxi, are you seriously using my own words against me? I really underestimated you. In the bedroom, Yunxi pulled out a variety of makeup products and dolled herself up beautifully. When she came downstairs with Baoyan, Hua Yicheng was stunned by her appearance. Wife, you look absolutely gorgeous today. Outside the venue, Yuan was greeting guests at the entrance. Yunxi, you're here. Bring Baoyan inside. I've prepared a variety of desserts, but once more people arrive, I might not be able to take care of you. Yunxi responded with a playful smile, you're really starting to exude that boss lady aura. Yuan beamed back. Of course. After today, I'll officially be the head of my own brand. With Baoyan in tow, Yunxi stepped into the hall. Just as they walked in, someone called her name from behind. Turning around, she saw the bar owner smiling and greeting her. What a coincidence, Yunxi. Did you find the person you were looking for last time? Yunxi sighed and replied, not yet. I've uncovered some clues, though. Jason went to Lasker a couple of years ago, apparently while being pursued. Xian phone revealed. Yunchi asked with a frown. Pursued? By whom? That's right. I checked the surveillance footage from back then. The way he looked at you wasn't normal, it seemed like it was all premeditated, Xian Feng continued. I suspect there's a big player backing him. Anyway, Boss Xian, thank you for bringing me this information. I really appreciate it. Now, if you'll excuse me, let's catch up another time. Yunchi smiled. As Yunchi turned to leave, Baoyan suddenly spoke up. Sis-in-law, was that guy just now into you? Yunchi froze for a moment, then crouched down to ask, why would you think that? Well, Baoyan replied thoughtfully, he looked at you the same way my brother does, like, with shiny eyes. Baoyan's next question hit even harder. Sis-in-law, do you like my brother? Would you ever leave him to be with someone else? I've seen him staring at your photos in a day so many times. He really likes you a lot. Baoyan likes you too. Please don't leave, okay? Oh no, it's not what you think, Baoyan. Your sister-in-law really likes your brother. I would never leave him, and I definitely wouldn't leave you either, Yunchi reassured. As Yunchi spoke, Fu Yunze suddenly approached from a distance. With a sneer, he said, Shin Yunchi, you're really something, huh? Flirting around wherever you go. Yunchi didn't even bother to look at him and retorted coldly, and what's it to you, huh? Go cool off somewhere else. Hearing her insult, Fu Yunze slammed the table in rage and shouted, you've got no shame at all. His outburst scared Baoyan, who burst into tears. Yunchi snapped back, Fu Yunze, if you're sick, go get treatment. Don't act crazy and scare my little sister here. I won't let you off if you do it again, you piece of trash. Fu Yunze glared and spat back, Hui Cheng, now that he's got no power or influence, you think it's okay to mess around with other people? If you're so obsessed with money, tell me how much you want, I'll pay you whatever. You're such a damn leech. Yunchi lost her patience. Are you insane? I'm ignoring you, but you just keep pushing it. Fu Yunze, you've crossed the line. When Yunchi threw a drink at him in frustration, Fu Yunze exploded, how dare you splash me? I'll tear you apart today, and show you what I'm capable of. Just as things were about to escalate into a full-blown fight, Hui Cheng stepped in and restrained Fu Yunze, his voice icy as he growled, don't you dare touch her. Wrapping his coat around Yunchi, Hui Cheng led her to a safe corner and ordered Luo away, have the bodyguards take Baoyan home first. It's too chaotic here for her. Fu Yunze hesitated briefly, then said with a smirk, it's surprising to see President Hua at such a small event. Are you here to use the Hua Group's name to suppress some other companies again? Hui Cheng chuckled at his sarcasm, clearly unfazed. Luo Wei then picked up the microphone and addressed the crowd, to clarify, the company cannot function without President Hua. The higher-ups have unanimously requested his return. Additionally, we have never officially announced any resignation from President Hua, so please don't be misled by rumors spread by those with ulterior motives. Hearing this announcement, Fu Yunze's face turned pale as if struck by lightning. What? How could this happen? Hui Cheng smiled icily and added, let's block the entire Fu Corporation and let them enjoy what it feels like to be excluded. Meanwhile, Yunchi, listening to Hui Cheng's declaration, couldn't help but feel triumphant at Fu Yunze's impending downfall. That scumbag sure holds a grudge, but I kind of like it. Meanwhile, rumors began to swirl about Yunchi secretly meeting a mysterious man at the hospital. Reporters publicly confronted Hui Cheng, asking, Mr. Hua, we've heard your wife is keeping a boy toy at the hospital. Care to comment? Hui Cheng's face darkened instantly, and he coldly retorted, that would be me. Yunchi burst into laughter, clutching her stomach. Oh, my goodness, this is hilarious. They actually called you a boy toy, Cheng. Alright, let's head home. These media people have such filthy mouths. Do you think our company president needs to be anyone's boy toy? On the drive home, Hui Cheng was visibly upset, sulking in the passenger seat. Yunchi noticed and tried to cheer him up. My husband is so handsome, he's nothing like those so-called boy toys. Honestly, isn't it absurd? Hui Cheng replied angrily, these bored reporters really need to find better things to do. One of these days, I'll make sure they regret it. Iching added softly, Yunshi, I'm sorry about what happened today. It's my fault for not being by your side sooner. Don't worry about it, Yunshi replied, smiling gently. Dealing with someone like Fu Yunze is child's play for me. Hua Iching still looked worried, but I do worry about you. From now on, I'll stick to you like glue whenever we go out. His sudden protectiveness made Yunshi blush slightly, and she thought to herself, why am I getting flustered all of a sudden? Nope, I can't let him one-up me. Gathering her thoughts, she suddenly leaned in, gently pushed Hua Iching back, and teased with a playful smirk, I mean, I'm bold enough to bully the famously cold-hearted and ruthless Hua Iching. So what's there to worry about? Oh, and speaking of boldness, I've heard the privacy in this car is excellent. Should we put that to the test? Hua Iching's interest was instantly piqued. He pulled her into his arms, and the two shared a passionate kiss, their affection intensifying until the car was filled with warmth and laughter. The next day, Hua Iching returned to the office. Shortly after, Luo Wei knocked and entered his office. President Hua, the director of Longhu Plaza, Mr. Wang, has just opened a new resort. He'd like to invite you and your wife to take a break there. Is it in the city? Hua Iching asked. Luo Wei smiled. It's actually on a small island north of the city. Hua Iching fell silent, lost in thought. It had been a long time since he and Yunshi had gone on a trip together. A little getaway to relax sounded like a great idea. After a moment, he nodded and said, got it. Once Luo Wei left, Hua Iching started daydreaming about their vacation. The more he imagined it, the more his face flushed with anticipation. A few days later, Luo Wei and Bao Yan appeared with a mountain of luggage. Yunshi, puzzled, asked, Bao Yan, where are you going with all this stuff? Bao Yan chuckled. Sister-in-law, this isn't for me. It's for you. My brother is taking you to a resort. I've already packed everything you'll need. Yunshi was momentarily stunned, her mind racing. What's going on? Are they kicking me out? We were just lovey-dovey a few days ago. She panicked, thinking, I haven't saved enough money yet. That heartless scumbag, Hua Iching. Seeing her dazed expression, Bao Yan quickly explained, don't overthink it. My brother planned a vacation for you too. This is all for your trip. Realizing the misunderstanding, Yunshi sighed in relief. Oh, so that's what this is about. Bao Yan, be good while I'm gone, okay? I'll bring you back something delicious. At the resort, Yunshi sat nervously in front of the vanity table. This is so strange. Why would he suddenly take me out to have fun? Oh well, might as well make the best of it. A little rest sounds nice. Walking along the beach, she found Hua Iching sitting by the shore. She plopped down beside him and teased, you really picked a great spot. Hua Iching smiled softly. As long as you like it. Yunshi smirked playfully. You know, our only form of relaxation in the past was, well, you know. This is a nice change of pace. Hua Iching's ears turned red. Hey, keep it down. What if someone hears you? We're already an old married couple. Why are you still so shy? She continued to tease. Her teasing made him a bit restless. Yunshi noticed his unease and asked, what's on your mind? Before she could get an answer, Hua Iching's playful, puppy-like demeanor surfaced. He clung to her suddenly and said, Yunshi, I have something important to tell you. Wait here for a second. With that, he grabbed a walkie-talkie and began issuing instructions. The team executed the plan. A group of burly men carrying pots and pans rushed over, found an open area, and got to work. Within moments, a brand new balloon arch was set up. Hua Iching gently held Yunshi's hand and led her toward it. Yunshi, puzzled, asked, what are you up to? Hua Iching's voice was calm but sincere. I've been thinking a lot lately. I don't think our marriage should end like this. I'm not sure when it started, but your presence has completely filled my life. I've started to care deeply about your feelings, about everything about you. I know you're strong and independent, and I admire that. He paused before continuing, but could you give me another chance? I want to be the sword that clears the path for you. Let me love you again. Hearing his heartfelt confession, Yoonshi froze, overwhelmed by the memories of how he had protected her time and again. Her tears began to fall without her realizing it. Seeing her cry, Hwee-chang grew flustered and quickly wiped her tears, trying to comfort her. The next second, Yoonshi's usual feisty attitude returned. She sniffled and teased, who proposes without even a bouquet of flowers? Do you really think this will work? Hwee-chang burst into laughter, pulling out a bouquet and a diamond ring. Dropping to one knee, he said earnestly, Yoonshi, I want to start over. There's no cold and heartless Hwee-chang anymore, only a Hwee-chang who belongs to Shin Yoonshi. Will you marry me again? Yoonshi's face lit up with happiness as she nodded. Yes, I will. The two embraced, sealing their fresh start. But back at the hotel, things took a playful turn. Ichang, stop it. What if someone sees us? Yoonshi protested, her voice tinged with embarrassment. Hwee-chang reassured her with a mischievous smile. Don't worry, don't worry. It's one-way glass. No one can see us from outside. Now be good and turn your head so I can look at you. Yoonshi's face turned bright red as she stammered, What are you doing? Let me go. If you keep teasing me, I'll start crying for real. After a while, the playful quarrel between Yoonshi and Hwee-chang escalated from the window to the bed. Yoonshi grabbed a pillow and launched a ferocious attack, hitting him while yelling, You shameless jerk. How dare you bully me? This is what you get. Hwee-chang didn't fight back. Instead, he leaned in and gently kissed her, completely catching her off guard. Alright, it's my fault. Don't be mad anymore, okay? He coaxed softly. Hearing his apology, Yoonshi decided not to hold a grudge. Just then, her phone buzzed with a message. She picked it up to see it was from Yongfingy, asking for a meeting to discuss a deal. Yoonshi scoffed to her, What tricks are you up to now? Without much hesitation, Yongfingy replied, Let's meet at the hospital the day after tomorrow. Noticing her deep concentration, Hwee-chang asked curiously, Who's messaging you? Yoonshi, not in the mood to explain, replied nonchalantly, It's Yongfingy. Probably out of money and looking to extort me. Let's not worry about her. The night is long, shouldn't we find something meaningful to do instead? A few days later, Yoonshi kept her appointment and arrived at the hospital. She first stopped by her father's room to check on him and ask the doctor about his condition. Miss Shin, your father's condition remains unchanged. He shows no signs of waking up, the doctor said somberly. What if he never wakes up? Yoonshi asked, her voice trembling. If the coma lasts too long, there's a high risk of organ failure, which could lead to death. But it all depends on the patient's overall health, the doctor explained. Disheartened by the prognosis, Yoonshi nodded and replied, Thank you. Please inform me immediately if there's any change. As she walked out of the room, Yongfingy approached with a sneer. Mrs. Hua, what an honor. Keeping me waiting for so long, your airs really suit you. I heard you've been getting quite close to Hwee-chang recently, haven't you? Yoonshi shot back coldly, Do I need to report the state of my relationship with him to you? Cut to the chase, why did you call me here? Yongfingy smirked, pulling out her trump card. I've got 2 pieces of information that I'm sure you'll want to know. And what's your price for this so-called information? Yoonshi asked, her tone icy. 40 million, Yongfingy said smugly. Yoonshi's face darkened. Are you out of your mind? You put my father in a coma, and I haven't even made you pay for that. Now you dare to extort me, she snapped. Yoonshi, stop slandering me. Shin Xiong fell on his own, Yongfingy snapped. You and I both know the truth, so there's no need for this theatrical performance. Yoonshi's tone was icy, but her words were sharp. And as for Hwee-chang, our relationship is just fine. Instead of wasting your time here, why don't you teach your precious daughter how to keep Xiao Junwei's attention? Yoonshi's sarcasm lit a fire in Yongfingy's eyes. She stood up, her anger spilling over. Ungrateful little tramp. If it weren't for you losing Hwee-chang's child, do you think anyone would even bother looking at you? Yunqi's nails dug into her palms, her restraint wavering. Enough. Say what you came to say or leave. Yang Fengyi scoffed, her smirk returning. Fine. Let me warn you, Su Weiman, Hua Yicheng's precious first love, is returning to the country. Your little marriage built on tricks and schemes? It's about to fall apart. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Yunqi fuming in the corridor. By the evening, back at the Hua family villa, the air was lighter. A small group had gathered in the courtyard for a casual barbecue. But their peaceful gathering was interrupted when an uninvited guest appeared, none other than Su Weiman herself. Su Weiman strode in with effortless grace, her sudden appearance throwing the group into confusion. Yunqi blinked at the unexpected guest. Who's this? She asked curiously. Yunqi's stomach sank as she heard Nia Yixing answer, you might not remember her. This is Su Weiman, my mentor's daughter and Hua Yicheng's childhood sweetheart. Hua Yicheng's childhood what? Yunqi struggled to keep her expression neutral, but her unease grew when Su Weiman stepped forward, a confident smile on her face. Yicheng, it's been so long. I brought you a gift, I hope you'll like it. Without hesitation, she draped a scarf over Hua Yicheng's shoulders, her closeness setting Yunqi's nerves on fire. Hua Yicheng noticed his wife's clenched fists and acted quickly. Taking off the scarf, he handed it to Yunqi with a polite smile. Thank you, but next time, give any gifts to my wife directly. And also, don't stand so close, my wife might misunderstand. Yunqi's irritation melted into a mix of satisfaction and warmth. This dog of a man can behave when it counts. Maybe he deserves some praise after all. Su Weiman turned to Yunqi with a bright smile. Long time no see, she greeted warmly. Yunqi, however, met her enthusiasm with a frosty glare, thinking to herself, do I even know you like that? Before Yunqi could respond, Su Weiman grabbed her hand and gushed, you're looking more beautiful than ever. Then, turning to Hua Yicheng, she teased, you're so inconsiderate, Yicheng. Yunqi's health has improved, and you didn't even tell me. We've been friends for so many years, why keep your distance now? Hua Yicheng's response was sharp, his tone leaving no room for argument. That distance matters, especially since I'm married now. Though her smile didn't falter, Su Weiman's expression tightened. She forced a laugh and said, relax, I've always respected boundaries. Yunqi, trying to ease the tension, asked politely, Miss Su, would you like to stay for dinner? Su Weiman declined with an apologetic smile. Not today. My father mentioned a new shipment of special medications, I need to pick them up. Yicheng, you can come along if you'd like. Hua Yicheng's gaze flicked to Yunqi, silently seeking her opinion. She nodded casually, but added with a grin, hurry back, hubby. I need my favorite pillow for tonight. Watching their affectionate exchange, Su Weiman's smile faded, replaced by a cold, distant look. But once she and Hua Yicheng were alone in the car, her demeanor changed. She leaned closer, her voice dripping with faux nostalgia. It's been so long since we've had time like this, just the two of us. Don't you miss it at all? Hua Yicheng didn't take the bait. His voice was ice. I'm married, Su Weiman. She laughed awkwardly, brushing off his response. I'm kidding, of course. I'm back this time to see if there's any hope for my right hand to heal. Later that evening, back at the villa, a small group sat around the table chatting. Yunqi leaned toward Yuan with a curious frown. Don't you think Su Weiman acts a bit strange? Like we owe her something. Yuan nodded, but before she could speak, Nia Yixing interjected, you actually do. Back then, when some unknown thugs targeted you, they tried to harm you. It got so out of hand that one of them pulled a knife. Right when things were about to go south, Su Weiman stepped in and shielded you. The police arrived just in time to stop everything, but she really saved you back then. Su Weiman had once received an invitation from a prestigious design company, but that opportunity was lost after she took a knife for you. That injury ended her career as a designer. Early the next morning, Yunqi came downstairs for breakfast, only to find Su Weiman sitting in the living room. Her voice was cold as she asked, what are you doing here? Su Weiman responded with feigned cheerfulness, oh, It's been ages since we've seen each other. I missed you, so I thought we could catch up. Yoonshi looked at her, unimpressed, thinking to herself, this woman really knows how to act superior. Out loud, she said, Miss Sue, how's your hand recovering? It's recovering well, Sue Wyman replied with a faint smile. It was worth it, though, saving your life with just one hand. How's your health these days? Yoonshi answered flatly, I've been fine. That's good to hear, Sue Wyman said smoothly. I've been worried about you since your miscarriage. I left the country after that, but I always wondered if it left any lasting damage. The mention of a miscarriage hit Yoonshi like a thunderclap. Her expression froze. What are you talking about? I was pregnant? Sue Wyman didn't seem fazed by Yoonshi's shock. She sipped her tea casually. I came today to help Chang, she said, changing the subject. I heard his illness is getting worse. My father is quite experienced in this field. He can't delay treatment any longer. If possible, I'd like him to come back with me for care. Yoonshi, who had been quietly listening, accepted Sue Wyman's business card and replied seriously, I'll let him know. Sue Wyman nodded. My flight is the day after tomorrow at 3 p.m. If Chang is willing to come, he can leave with me. I won't stay longer than that. Take care of yourself. With that, she left. After Sue Wyman's departure, Yoonshi sat in stunned silence, piecing together the fragments of what she'd learned. So Chang and I had a child, she thought, her chest tightening. No matter how much I've searched, I couldn't find a trace. He must have made sure no one talked about it. Her mind raced. What was the point of the promises we made to each other? I trusted him so much, but now he's kept this secret from me. A child? How are we supposed to move forward after this? As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, Yoonshi stood by the window, replaying the events of the day in her mind. When Hui Chang came home from work, he switched on the light and walked up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. What's wrong? He asked gently. You look upset. Yoonshi's chest tightened with emotion. Tears streamed down her face as she turned to him. Chang, did we ever have a child? His body tensed at her question. Who told you that? He asked, his voice carefully controlled. Sue Wyman was here today, Yoonshi replied, her voice trembling. I locked everyone else's lips, but I forgot about her, Chang admitted with a sigh. I guess it was only a matter of time before the truth came out. Do you really want to know why I kept it from you? You said you never wanted to talk about it again. That's why I buried the news. His words brought a flood of memories rushing back, fragments of a happier time when their days were filled with laughter and dreams of a shared future. They'd spend evenings by the sea, savor meals at her favorite restaurant, and map out plans for their new home. The anticipation of the baby's arrival had tied it all together like a beautiful ribbon. Then, everything fell apart. On the day they were supposed to celebrate their anniversary, disaster struck. When Chang arrived, he found both Yoonshi and Sue Wyman unconscious on the ground. At the hospital, Yoonshi suffered massive blood loss, and no match could be found in the local blood banks. In the end, Chang pulled every string he had to find a compatible donor in time. After she was discharged, Yoonshi spiraled into despair. The miscarriage left her fragile and broken, her days blurred by tears. Chang's voice softened as he held her tighter. I'm so sorry, Yoonshi. I failed to protect you. I promise, from now on, I'll never leave your side. I'll never let you get hurt again. Yoonshi couldn't hold back her sobs any longer, her cries filling the room. It's all my fault, Chang said, his voice cracking. But don't be afraid. I'll keep you safe from now on. He leaned in, his lips pressing against her forehead in a kiss filled with quiet desperation and unwavering resolve. After they cleared things up, Yoonshi turned to Hui Chang with a curious expression. Back then, Mei Qinghan donated her blood to me. I was grateful, so I signed that agreement, didn't I? She asked. Chang nodded. Yes, that's right. Yoonshi's brows furrowed as another thought crossed her mind. And what about that prenup? What's the story there? He sighed, his voice heavy with regret. Yang Fingyi insisted I sign it. She said I failed to protect you and made me put down a 30 million yuan guarantee. Her eyes widened before she let out a small laugh. You really are too generous. Whatever she asked for, you just gave. Hua Yicheng's expression became resolute. Honestly, though, she wasn't wrong, I failed to protect you. But don't cry over spilled milk. It's all in the past now. From here on, I'll make sure you're safe every step of the way. With those words, he pulled her into a kiss, his arms wrapping tightly around her. The warmth of his embrace softened her mood, bringing a sense of calm. As memories resurfaced, Yunqi's mind lingered on something peculiar from the past. Those thugs who insulted me, something about their conversation was odd. It felt like someone hired them to hurt me. Could Su Weiman have been involved? She's more complicated than she seems. Yicheng's face darkened at the mention of Su Weiman. It wouldn't surprise me, he said coldly. Then, almost as if recalling something, Yunqi asked, by the way, she suggested you go abroad to her father's clinic for treatment. What's your plan? I haven't spoken to her in ages, Yicheng replied, his tone frosty. The only person who knows my condition well is Nya Yisheng. But since Su Weiman personally invited us, we'll have to go. I'll handle it. Picking up his phone, he made a call. Luo Wei, get the private jet ready. We're leaving for Amber the day after tomorrow. Oh, and have someone check that medication. I need to know its ingredients as soon as possible. Listening to his plans, Yunqi felt uneasy, her thoughts clouded by an inexplicable sense of foreboding. After hanging up, Yicheng wrapped an arm around her and said, Don't worry. Let's treat this trip as a little vacation to clear our minds. A few days later, their plane soared into the skies. Yunqi sat by the window, lost in thought. Sensing her worry, Yicheng reached for her hand. Don't overthink it, darling. We'll take things one step at a time. As the conversation faded, Yicheng began unbuttoning his shirt, his actions bold and deliberate. Yunqi's cheeks flushed a deep red, her earlier worries forgotten in the heat of the moment. Pulling Yicheng down beneath her, she smirked mischievously. All right, Mr. Hua, it's time to collect some interest. Yicheng, caught off guard by her sudden assertiveness, grinned as he brushed his hair. Go ahead, my dear. I'm all yours. After their tender exchange, the plane touched down smoothly the next morning. You finally made it, Su Weiman greeted them, a polite smile on her face. My father is busy with an academic conference today, so I'll take you to the lab to collect the medication first. By the way, have you finished the last batch I gave you? Hearing her question, Yicheng's eyes narrowed with suspicion. Just a few hours earlier, his assistant had analyzed the medication Su Weiman had delivered. It was designed to suppress neurological conditions, but came with significant side effects, headaches, nausea, and gradual memory loss. What's more, the assistant had unearthed an academic report suggesting that Su Weiman's father had been missing for quite some time. Yicheng glanced at the findings in his hand, his tone laced with cold resolve. I knew something was off about her. She must have a hidden agenda. But don't worry, Yunqi. No matter what she's planning, I'll keep you safe. They followed Su Weiman to the research institute. She gestured grandly as she introduced the facility. This place is my father's masterpiece. He poured his heart into building it, and this special medication is one of his most significant achievements. Yunqi raised an eyebrow at her words, skepticism evident in her gaze. Keep spinning your tale, she thought, suppressing a smirk. Let's see how long it holds up before we expose you. Make yourselves comfortable, Su Weiman said before disappearing into the lab to retrieve the medicine. As soon as she left, Yunqi whipped out her phone, snapping photos of the lab equipment and documents scattered around. She didn't fully understand what she was capturing, but instinct told her it might come in handy later. Before long, Su Weiman emerged from the lab, holding a vial in her hand. This is my father's latest formulation, she announced with an air of pride. It's more potent and works even faster. Yicheng took the vial and inspected it, his expression darkening. This is outrageous, he thought. The active ingredients have doubled. Are they trying to kill me? He let out a cold laugh and sneered, "What's the rush, Suman? Am I not losing my memory fast enough for you?" Caught off guard, Suman's smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" she stammered. "Don't play dumb," Yunshi snapped, her eyes blazing with fury. "This stuff messes with the nervous system, you can't tell me you didn't know that." Feigning shock, Suman gasped. "What? Memory loss? Are you saying my father has been hiding this from me all along?" Yunshi crossed her arms, unimpressed. "Drop the act. Your father's been missing for ages. Who's really running this lab? Do I need to spell it out?" Suman's expression turned defensive, but Yunshi pressed on, her voice dripping with contempt. "If you're so confident, why don't you take this medicine yourself? What's your real game, giving something like this to I-Chang? I-Chang, you have to believe me." Suman cried, her voice shaking. "We've been friends for years. Why would I ever lie to you? If I wanted to hurt you, I could have done it a long time ago." Yunshi's eyes narrowed. "Funny you should bring up the past. Remember when I lost my memory back then? Any chance that had something to do with you?" I-Chang's voice cut through the tension like ice. "Even now, you're trying to justify yourself? After everything I've been through for Yunshi, you still expect me to trust you? Your sacrifices don't erase your intentions." He stepped forward, his tone cold and final. "Out of respect for our past friendship, I'll ensure the evidence we submit helps your lawyer negotiate a reduced sentence. But this obsession of yours, destroying what you can't have, ends now. I suggest you reflect on that." Suman's shoulders sagged, her protests dying in her throat as she realized there was no turning back. "Since that's the case, there's no need to keep pretending. Let's cut to the chase." On the road, a luxury black Mercedes was driving along. Yunshi and I-Chang sat inside, discussing what had just happened. "I didn't expect her to be so fixated on you," Yunshi said, her tone mixed with relief. "It's a good thing you're okay. Don't worry about her, sweetheart. She can't stir up any trouble," I-Chang reassured her. "I'm just afraid of us missing out on each other again," Yunshi said, bursting into tears. All right, aren't we fine now?" I-Chang comforted her, reaching for her hand. "Don't cry, my love. Let's cherish the time we have left together." Just as his words fell, Yunshi's head slumped, and she passed out cold,